Hello, everyone. Welcome to Popcast on the Rocks, episode 88. It's a big episode we've got coming straight ahead for you. We've got a guest on. We're not covering news because the topic's so big. We got to skip right to it. So, anyways, we're a podcast that talks about pop culture things. Sometimes there's whiskey. The topic for tonight is going to be Wheel of Time from Amazon. So, we're going to be covering our weeks a little bit, some stuff we're into and watching. And then after that, we're going to be talking Wheel of Time and getting pretty spoiler heavy with the show. We've got two Wheel of Time experts on, so it's going to be good. Before we get there, Andrea, we got drink holidays. Andrea is here as always. What are our drink holidays?
So we don't have any for today per se, but we've got one looking back and one looking ahead, which I feel is very appropriate as we're coming up on the end of the year, looking ahead to 2022. But if you're currently looking behind at 2021, December 24th, as I mentioned before, was National Eggnog Day. I probably will never celebrate that holiday because I'm not a nog fan. I'm not a nog head, whatever you want to call it. But if you are, kudos, Christmas Eve was your day. But if you're looking ahead, the 31st is unsurprisingly National Champagne Day. Closing out the new year closing out the old and bringing in the new with a toast of champagne. So yeah, two very different kinds of holidays. I'd probably be more of the latter. I'm a champagne gal, though I'm not tonight. Tonight, I'm just sticking with a good old fashioned ale in honor of the show, Wheel of Time, and a few things that we get introduced to in the last couple of episodes. So, cheers.
All right, awesome. Yes, cheers. And our guest tonight, returning all-star Phil. Welcome.
Hey guys.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me back. I'm super excited to talk Wheel of Time. So that's
awesome.
Good stuff.
Did you bring a libation with you or any sort of, I mean, you got to keep your palate wet somehow.
Right. Yes, I did. I went with a some cherry moonshine that I stole from my sister-in-law at the end of Christmas. They left it in my in-laws' fridge and they didn't want it. So, but it was like cherry soaked in moonshine. So it's like cherry moonshine with some bubbly blueberry pomegranate bubbly water mixed in.
Oh,
okay. Well, that sounds good.
It's actually not that good. It's not actually that great. But I'm not gonna dump it. So
okay, well, you
doesn't have the flavor I thought it would.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to think of a Wheel of Time related name for it. Think of something in the Wheel of Time that should be good, and then but like isn't so good.
Oh, okay.
Can we just call it the Nynaeve? Let's just call it.
So you think she should be good, but she's not? Or are you just
yeah, we'll go with that.
Not good?
I mean, she's the wisdom, so yes, I would think she would be good. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I will say, now we'll get into this later probably, but she is one character that follows pretty closely with the books as far as personality. She's
Thank you.
Like important and kind of annoying in the books, and same in the show. So
you literally could be repeating what I've said. Yeah, we could not be more aligned on that. Like, kudos to the actress because good job. Yeah. Like, it's an accurate portrayal, but that doesn't make it less annoying.
All right.
Well, how about you, John?
Last bit of a Wheel of Time reference here before we get there. I got because I'm bringing it in with that too. So I made a drink. This is my most elaborate one, I think, on the podcast. Yeah, or close to, anyways. And maybe it doesn't look super fancy, but I'm bringing it. I'm calling it the Wheel of Time.
Okay.
Wow. And I saw the wheel in there, so that's good.
Yep, exactly. Orange looks like a wheel. So it is gin. It's a Nordic gin, and then I have a little bit of simple syrup in it, only like a half ounce, about a half ounce of orange juice, and then I took a wedge of orange and I stacked some dry thyme on it, and burnt it, and then threw it in the shaker with the lid on to let it kind of smoke in there, and then while I went and got my tonic water. So then when I came back, I cracked in an egg white and shook the hell out of it. and then poured that in my glass with the orange, and then I stirred in some tonic. So it's it's not as frothy as it should be because I stirred in the tonic, but I'm not going to sit and shake the tonic and lose all its carbonation. So it's kind of
Sure.
got a little bit of a creaminess, and it's got some carbonation yet, and that's it. That's the wheel
Excellent.
of time.
Excellent pun.
How
Mhm.
concerned from a scale of 1 to 10 are you about salmonella?
2.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
I mean, I
Back to
feel
that.
like, well, firstly, there's a lot of other cultures that they leave their eggs out,
Mhm.
they consume raw eggs all the time. You go to Japan, they throw a raw egg on top of your rice all the time. Like,
Mm.
um, different eggs in different places. But to my understanding, if I'm not mistaken, generally the stuff that's a problem is people are getting it from the outside of the egg.
Mm. Mhm.
I know
I'm not
you
sure
can
about that.
people can have issues eating like raw
Mhm.
cookie dough. People talk about that stuff, but I think your
Sure.
Mhm.
chances are so low if
I
your
think so too.
general cleanliness is
Mhm.
like good, but any
I think
health
you're probably
experts
right.
out there can let me know. But yeah, I'm not too
I'm
concerned.
sure you're
Generally,
fine.
at like a bar, like if there's a drink with
Yeah.
a egg white in it, it's like the go-to. It's like, oh, that one's
Yep.
gonna be
Mm.
frothy and delicious. So
Okay.
Mhm.
Mhm.
yeah.
Interesting.
That's it. I mean, if
Good
this
deal.
was like, we get high budget here. Pete that's been on the show before has talked about that, like filming, making the drink, and it could be a whole
Mhm.
thing, and it
Oh,
could be playing while we're, before the
Yes.
show starts. But
sure.
then that would ruin
Mhm.
the surprise, right? So
Well, we
Also
don't have to
true.
tell people what it is or
yeah,
our name for it. Because
I
I was
feel
definitely
like
thinking
Wheel of
about
Time for
like,
this one's kind of on the nose, but
yeah, that's all right. I was
Well,
thinking about making like something and calling it the Eye of the World, but I was
oh, that'd
like,
be
oh
cool.
man,
mm,
I had to like sit and
yeah,
think about it more than like the 5 minutes before the show to like
Mhm.
see what would go in it.
yeah, right. So that's my drink. That's the recipe.
I
It's
like
quite
it.
good. So
Cool.
if you're just listening to this in the background, shake one up yourself. Be great. So, all right. Well, again, welcome back, Phil. We'll start with you. What's been happening recently in your life in terms of television shows or great movies
Mhm.
you've seen
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
books you're reading? What's happening? What should we
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
consume
Yeah, so no, yeah,
or not?
thank you for asking. I'm happy to oblige. So obviously I've been watching Wheel of Time. My wife and I generally been watching that on Friday nights. Kind of saving it. That fun Friday night
Mhm.
viewing experience. So that's been great. A couple weeks ago I watched kind of binged through that first season of Demon Slayer. So
Mhm.
that was
Okay.
we talk about anime on the show, right? You guys talk about it?
Yep,
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
That's kosher.
absolutely.
All
a
right.
fair bit.
Cool. So like Demon Slayer was really awesome. So I really enjoyed that. I really like the vibe
So
of
on
it.
Demon Slayer, so you
Mhm,
power through that. Did you watch the
mhm.
film as well yet, or
I haven't yet. I had it on my Christmas list along with a couple other animes, and that one didn't get selected.
okay?
Mm.
So I have to get that out to just order that off Amazon. But I've heard I was talking to someone and they said you should watch the movie and then watch like the extent they turned it into like a little series and they fleshed out the movie. And that you really should watch both, but in a pinch you can just watch the movie if you're a little strapped for time.
Mm.
Oh,
And then
interesting.
move on to the third season that's I think airing in Japan right now,
It's
if I'm
airing.
not
It's here.
mistaken.
It's
Oh,
there's
is it?
I
Oh,
think
on
3 episodes currently out. Yep.
oh, okay.
Mhm.
Crunchyroll or something like that? Is it? I
Yep.
forget. Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
I think
So
it's
yeah, so I gotta watch
on
Mugen Train.
Funimation too. I mean, same difference now, kind of, but
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So yeah, no,
So
definitely excited to watch that. The big show I've been watching, or the show I've been watching a ton of, is The Expanse.
Mhm.
So sci-fi show was originally on Sci-Fi, the channel, for like 2 or 3 seasons, and then got dropped and picked up by Amazon, and they
Mhm.
just came out with their sixth season. And so I've been told by a couple different people, independent from each other, that it's just an amazing sci-fi show. It's like the best sci-fi that's on TV available right now for consumption. That's just incredible. Like the best thing since I think someone had told me the best thing since like Battlestar Galactica. So
Mm.
so I finally had to try it out and I've just been blown away. It's amazing. I'm only halfway through season 2, so I'm nowhere near what many of your viewers might know is the
Sure.
sixth season and what many reviewers might be watching in the sixth season. So I'm still kind of a newbie in it, but it's just incredible, just super well done. It's very like scary and creepy, and it's got a cool vibe.
Okay.
And it's got
Have
like
you
people that.
tried?
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's got actors and actresses that you guys would know, like is it Thomas Jane, the Punisher? Is that his name?
Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
Mhm.
He's the
Yep.
main character in the show, and it's just so excellent.
Nice. I was
Yeah.
gonna ask because you said like best sci-fi on television right now.
hmm
If you've tried Lost in Space, because viewership
hmm
wise, that's doing quite well. And
hmm
I've only seen the first episode, but I was interested in more. To my
hmm
understanding, it was a little more family oriented. It's not going to be
Yeah,
as dark.
it's
Like tonally, it looks
yeah.
pretty dark, but I don't
hmm
think content wise.
I agree. Yeah, Dana actually watched all the first two seasons. I watched about halfway through the first season, and I liked it, but I didn't love it.
Okay.
And I certainly don't. I don't personally like it as much as The Expanse.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, I
Cool.
know Dana really liked it, and I've talked to other people
Mhm.
who liked it. And I feel like it's well done, and the production quality is like high in Lost in Space as
Right.
well. But I just personally like the story better, and it's just
Right.
more gripping.
Cool.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it's
then
definitely one
I
that's eluded my radar for a long time.
yeah.
So,
So well, it's never too late,
Mhm.
my friend.
yep.
But and then the things I did get for just the things I'm going to be watching soon, as going back to anime, I got season 2 of One Punch Man on Blu-ray for Christmas
Excellent.
Nice.
at my request, and then I got Mob Psycho 100. You guys, I'm sure are familiar if you haven't
Yeah.
seen it, maybe.
Indeed.
So super excited. I'd heard about it, like kind of researching similar animes to One Punch Man, and you know mangas by the same author and everything. So it sounds like tonally it's pretty similar and really cool. So I'm very excited to watch that season as well.
Yeah, I should get on if you when you start going through those, you should let me know so that I can like
hmm
make more of a point to go through them because
For sure.
we watched Mob Psycho 100. We tried a little bit, just like 2 episodes at a home con
hmm
Mhm.
once.
hmm
So definitely got the flavor of that. And One
Yep.
Punch Man, I've seen a bunch of season 1 yet, but I have not
Mhm.
finished it. So
Okay.
um,
hmm
yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
haven't
all
moved on to
all good
season
stuff.
2.
I mean, I know that it's we're not exactly it's not exactly the latest shows, but
No.
you know, anime fans always ready to talk
Mhm.
And,
about their
yeah.
favorite series.
Yeah.
So
And since
Well,
I'm still a relative newbie, I'm still catching up on like seeing newer stuff, catching up on older stuff, and
Mhm.
mhm.
not maybe a newbie,
I
but
don't, I don't, yeah, I don't consider you a newbie anymore. I think I've said this before. Like you've consumed enough now that you have a grasp on what there is, some of the things
hmm
you like, all that.
hmm hmm yeah,
But as with
So
streaming shows, I mean, there's so much out there that like, it sometimes feels impossible to like
yeah,
watch everything and, you
hmm
know,
yeah,
coming to it like later. It's not like we either of us, I can say with some confidence, started watching anime in our teens or anything like that. So it's like now we're just
right.
playing catch up. Like I just finished Cowboy Bebop for the first time
No, yeah,
like a couple
hmm
weeks ago. So,
hmm
but
yeah,
that
right,
doesn't mean I haven't watched a fair bit of anime.
sure,
yep.
right.
Yeah, and I
Fair
mean, I
point.
think that anime is in such a good place right now that
Hmm.
the amount of content is ludicrous in and of
hmm
itself. Like
Right.
you could not watch any other shows. They're talking about our big queue of things that we have to
hmm
see. You could watch nothing else but anime, new stuff that's coming out, and it's just so much. There's so much.
hmm
Exactly.
So
And
hmm
good.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah. So no, like fault for not immediately going back and seeing all the classics or all the things everybody's talking about because
hmm
anime does move on. Like it keeps going with new
hmm
stuff, So
For sure.
Hmm.
hmm
but
hmm Yeah, definitely.
quick hello
Okay,
to
straight.
Renato. He's in chat. So thanks for jumping in for today's
Hey, what
episode.
up?
Okay, give you one more,
Um,
John. One more, real quick.
yeah,
Yeah.
go for
You're
it. Yeah.
you're gonna want to hear about this one. So, upcoming show that isn't out yet, but that obviously is going to be amazing. Late January, Too Hot to Handle season 3 on Netflix. So your viewers should definitely know about that.
Too hot to handle.
Oh God.
What's
You
this?
familiar?
I am,
Familiar
Too
with that
yes.
show?
Yes.
hmm
John is not.
So is this a thing
it's-
you're actually watching?
Yes, he
yeah,
is.
Dana and I do watch it. Yes,
Yep.
it's
It's a guilty pleasure kind of show.
definitely, but it's enjoyable for sure.
Okay.
Seriously,
John clearly
it's good.
found it.
It's
found
like it's
I understand.
trashy reality TV, but it's like well made. Like Netflix does a good job
I
with those kind of
understand.
shows. So
Yeah,
John and I
trashy,
definitely don't understand about trashy reality TV.
Yeah,
Housewives.
right. I mean, we went to Lisa Vanderpump's
I'm
like
so jealous.
bar, her
Yeah.
cocktail lounge in Vegas. So yeah. No, I understand. And like Ashley watches a bunch, and like I can't. It is difficult to not, even if sometimes I hate the show. I literally it makes me angry. It's difficult to not get sucked into some of the drama somewhere.
Yep.
Mhm.
There's she's watching she watches all the what are they 90 Day Fiance. There's like a dozen of them now, you know.
Mhm.
Yep.
And there's one, and this woman she's from Idaho, and immediately she's like, I like anime and Asian men. And so she's out in their yard with like a dummy and her bleach outfit on, chopping the dummy with a sword. I'm like, oh man, here we go. And
Yeah.
so yeah.
Well, 90 Day
It's
Fiance,
alright.
and perhaps you're also familiar with Married at First Sight. That's kind of a
Yes.
similar-ish show, which is super cringy, but you get sucked in real easy.
Mhm.
Dana just watched Love is Blind on Netflix, which I saw enough of to get sucked
Yeah.
in a bit, and that was like I did not
Okay.
enjoy that as much as Too Hot to Handle, but it's like to your point, John, it's hard not to be like, wait, that guy was telling that chick that he's probably going to marry her
Yeah.
in the room. Like, what the heck? So
Yeah. This is
it's-
Chris every time I turn on Housewives. He'll be like, "Oh, I hate this," and he'll like go into the other room, and I'll just be like peacefully watching, and suddenly he comes out and he's like, "Wait, I thought that guy was with Ramona, and now he's with Luann, and what? They're just like swapping. What the hell?" And I'm like, "Oh, I thought you weren't watching," and he's like, "I'm not watching," and then he like runs away.
Just like learning about it by osmosis to have it on the TV.
Right. Exactly.
Yep. Well, that's a good assortment of content there. Andrea, can you match it?
I believe I can. So yeah, I've been kind of all over the map these past couple weeks, like week and a half-ish since we did the last cast. We spoke on the morning that I was headed to go to the live radio play version of It's a Wonderful Life.
Right.
Definitely 2 thumbs up. I did not know if I was going to enjoy
Okay.
that because I realized, like we discussed, I'd never seen It's a Wonderful Life, which kind of shocked me because I'm definitely a fan of like the Christmas holiday movies. But yeah, it was cute. It was a good story. The play itself was well done and it was fun to watch. So, still haven't seen the actual movie yet. I was gonna start it and then I realized it was over 2 hours and I'm like, it's too much of my life right now. But at some point, I think I will because it was a good show. But something that was far shorter, but also Christmas related that I did watch was Apple TV's The Case of the Missing Mustache, the little Ted Lasso animated Christmas special that was like 4 minutes long and was like totally adorable and hilarious.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
It was cute. It was kind of like, not really advancing the show plot in any way, which it really shouldn't at 5 minutes long. But it was a cute little thing. If you're just like missing Ted Lasso, it was kind of adorable to be like, oh, they just did a little animated, holiday show. So that was pretty cute.
Phil, did you watch Ted Lasso then, Phil?
Yeah,
Yes.
he did.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we loved it. We binged the whole first season, and then we had to like every Friday we were like, oh, only one episode.
Yep.
So it was we loved it. Yep. Big fan.
Okay, so non-spoiler wise, like you enjoyed it pretty much the whole way through, and okay.
Yeah, I think there were some like decisions they made in various episodes where I was like, I love that little piece of this one episode, but overall, yes, I loved it. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't yet, it takes less than 5 minutes of your life. Check out the animated Christmas special. It's very cute. And like the entire cast participates. And then I watched the Hawkeye finale again because Chris hadn't seen it by the time we had done our podcast. So I very lovingly, as his spouse, sacrificed another hour of my time and watched it with him. So he has thoughts on that he should definitely at some point when we talk Marvel again, he should chat about them because of course he hadn't watched any of Daredevil with me. I mean, he'd seen like backgroundy episodes like here and there. But yeah, sorry, spoiler alert, there's a character from that show that shows up in Hawkeye. I won't say any names. But so yeah, so he had some very interesting reactions to how that was for sure. Um
Cool.
and then another thing we were watching together that I'm so close to finishing, I'm like super antsy. I can't wait. We just binged basically like yesterday and today the first season of Witcher. We're like 10 minutes away from
Okay.
the finale, like the finale
Nice.
episode ending. Like we're in the finale episode, and when I was like, yeah, gotta get on the podcast. But it was really hard. I was like watching till like the last second. I was like sliding away, like, okay, I'm going. But
Chris is like, where are you going?
I was like, and I even told him, like, I don't have enough time to watch the full episode before the podcast. Do you really want to start this? It's like, we can do it. It'll be fine. Damn it.
Oh, sure, Chris.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, that's too bad. That's getting epic there.
oh,
Yeah.
I know. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was very fun. I won't really say anything about it other than I enjoyed the very Tarantino-y style back and forth
Storytelling.
and then they did a great job like blending the past, present, future moments together. So well done. Excellent storytelling.
Well, so all I need to know is, are you liking it enough that you're going forward to talk? We can talk about season 2. Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
We should do a like first couple episodes or first episode in season 1 wrap up or something like that.
Yes.
Oh, you're just finishing season 1, Andrea?
Yes. Yep.
Oh.
Because the very short, long backstory is I'd started it a while back. And then Chris caught me like 10 minutes into the first episode, was like, oh, I really wanted to watch that with you. You wait for me? And I was like, sure, fine. And then he had like 0 time. So then we were looking forward to, season 2 is announced. It's coming December. I think it was either 17th or 19th.
The Dresden Files all over again.
I know, seriously. So I was like, okay, I'm going to really watch it this time. Like, I'm going to sit down. I think it's been a really long time. Chris isn't going to care. I sat down to watch it. And again, like 10 minutes into the episode, he was like, we were going to watch that. And I was like, damn it. So I was like, I didn't think you'd care. So then finally now over his Christmas break, we were like doing it. Nice. So we just like binged through the first season. So
very cool.
Yeah.
So have you seen that show, Phil?
So I started it maybe a year right when the first season came out. I got to that first like flashback battle scene, and just sometimes some movies or shows, if they have like too realistically graphic of like hand-to-hand combat battle scenes, it's just like I don't really need to see that. Like I stopped watching that kind of stuff, and I stopped watching the Boys season 2 when in like the first episode. I don't want to give any spoilers, but in the first episode of season 2, in Homelander is like checking out that new
stuff for sure.
That new superhero that lady is recommending, and he's got like a visual impairment. I saw that scene and I was just like, I don't need to watch this in my life. It's fine if people like are okay with that kind of stuff. I'm not saying, I don't mean okay with it, but I just mean if people can handle that sort of stuff, and I'm just like, I can't. I'm just, maybe I'm getting old or something, or maybe it's having kids. I don't know, but I just don't need to see it. It just bothers me. So there's a lot of other content that I prefer anyway. So I
think a number of people get that way. I mean, my grandpa got that way. My own grandpa,
sure.
So I mean, you're a little young to be that to be grandpa, but
So that first battle scene in The Witcher, I was like, it's a little violent. I don't need to see that. Yeah, I don't know. I watch Game of Thrones mostly, but anyway.
I do notice though that like after post kids, like it is harder to watch like scenes involving kids. Like I can still do it, but it's definitely like,
I get that part.
Why would you do that? Like, it's tough.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, but so anyway, no, I never did watch. I always intended to like go back into it and like just skip over scenes if I was like, I don't, But then I just got busy with other shows, and I just kind of never picked it back up.
There are fewer than you think.
Of like gruesome scenes.
Yeah, I mean,
The Witcher.
because a lot of it, I mean, a lot of it is more like I mean, I don't think this is giving anything away.
No.
But a lot of it is, monsters, like that sort of
Sure.
thing. You know what
That's
I
what
mean?
I've
Because he's a
heard.
monster hunter. So most
Right.
of the
That's what I've heard.
gore, I would say like 85 to 90, and then like 10 to 15% is human.
Okay.
And you can
Oh,
and you
okay.
can fast forward. You can tell when that's coming.
Okay. Because I'm totally fine with like monster type violence
Yeah,
more so. So that's not a big deal.
for sure.
I think it's because my older brother made me and my little brother watch Braveheart when I was like 8, and it like scarred me
Mm.
for life, possibly.
That's so funny because like my dad had me watch like Alien and Predator when I was 8, and I was just like, sweet. Like, I mean,
Well,
like,
sure.
like the following night, 8-year-old me was like hiding under the covers, like, shit, there's
Right.
an alien in my room,
Right.
like
Obviously.
listening for
Right.
some weirdo heartbeat that's
Is that
like,
Predator?
I'm
Yeah.
about to die, or like laser eyes, but in the
Yeah.
moment I was like, oh my God. So I think that's
Sure.
what started like my whole ability to
Little,
watch like crazy stuff
all the
like
kids
that.
need to do to torture you is to have 3 laser pointers. They just like shine at you from somewhere. Oh my God.
Right.
Shit.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
God. Or play the sound of a heartbeat in the background, just coming closer.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, so
Um.
yeah, almost I'm 10 minutes away from finishing Witcher. Can't wait to, when we sign off from the podcast, I'll be finishing that up with Chris. And then
Nice.
just for a little show and tell, reading some Winter's Heart to get into what our main topic is tonight. And then of course,
Cool.
finished up Wheel of Time.
Nice. All right.
Also, the book I'm on, by the way, Wheel of
Yes.
Winter's Heart. I
Virtual
really
high
like.
Yeah.
five.
So if there are big fans out there, you got to let us know if you
Mm-hmm.
want to see the book discussions, book
Yes.
club,
Yep. Book
something like
club. Oh
that.
my God.
Well,
We're gonna have a
that's
cute little
adorable.
offshoot called Book Club.
Yeah. Yep. Book club on the rocks. It's a
Mm-hmm.
little,
There
little
you go.
long.
Nice. I like
Yeah.
it. Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Yep.
It's better than Popcast on the Rocks : book club. So
Sure. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. If this was if we were covering just like anime or something, it'd be Popcast X The Rocks
Yes.
/ club plus books.
Right.
Yep. Exactly.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of anime again, I'm also into a little bit of that these days, but mostly manga in the last like week or so. Last
Sure.
couple weeks, really.
Mhm.
Like we Ashley and I are watching together yet Mieruko-san. Mieruko-chan. And it's a kind of a ghost sort of
Mm-hmm.
light horror kind of
Mhm.
show. And that's been fun. It was something we weren't sure of to start. I think they kind of try to grab your attention with a few unnecessary like fan servicey things, and then it kind of mellows out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But that's been fun. It's been evolving. I think we're on episode 7 or so. And then I talked about it a little bit last week, but the manga I've been reading, so Akame ga Kill Zero. It's like the
Mm-hmm.
prequel to the anime Akame ga Kill, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And the unique thing about Akame ga Kill, I thought, because it came out at a similar time as Kill la Kill, I thought, okay, it's just like another thing jumping on that kind of bandwagon or something. But it's very
Mhm.
different. Very different
Yeah.
show. It's animated very differently. And the neat thing about it is when people die, like it gets shockingly violent quickly. And then when
Mm.
people die, they die. Like most things, someone gets really badly hurt or whatever, and they almost get
Mhm.
healed up. You kind of have your
Sure.
same staple of main characters,
Mhm.
and there is it gets gruesome and real fast. So it says so far, Akame got killed 0 is the same. Was more of the same in that way. But we're getting to see some backstory to some of the main characters and such from the original Akame ga Kill. And I finished volume 1 and 2. I told Andrea last week I broke down and just bought volume 2 digitally because it was so difficult to
Right.
find
Oh,
physically.
sure.
And
Yeah.
because I was sitting on volume 3 and 4, I'm like, oh, I can't read those until I can find this other one. And so
Sure.
yeah, now I'm gonna start volume 3.
Nice.
And you probably haven't heard, Phil, Sweat and Soap. That's been my guilty pleasure. Sweat and Soap.
Soap? No, I'm not
Yes.
familiar with that.
So it's a romantic comedy, a quirky romantic comedy manga.
Okay.
And it's a I won't if people have heard it last week, I know Andrea did. I'll try to make it quick.
Okay.
It's
hmm
it's a woman that sweats profusely. She sweats a lot. She gets nervous or whatever, and she's very
Uh-huh.
self-conscious about it. It's a problem in her life. But she found
Uh-huh.
this one company that sells soaps and toiletry items that actually help her. She thinks
Hmm.
it helps with her sweating and better smell and everything.
Sure.
So she works at this place that sells these products. Well,
hmm
this guy actually ends up finding out that he really likes her scent. So this
Uh-huh.
is a weird thing for her
Her
and
natural scent.
awkward. Yeah, her
Sure.
Mhm.
natural scent. And
hmm
but this guy is all about smells because he developed the products that she uses.
Oh.
He's the guy
Uh-huh.
that's like the head, sensory person or whatever that
Interesting.
develops these things. So
hmm
she's like her sense is like inspiration to him. And so they like get together and there's a romantic element and it's been
Sure.
good. So I'm
Okay.
only finished volume 1, but I'm
hmm
gonna start volume 2. So yeah,
Funny.
recommended.
Okay. Sounds like something
Um
Dana might be potentially interested in too. So
Maybe. I mean, yeah, it's like
Yeah,
it's
I was bummed Dana wasn't gonna come on because she and I
to
had
ask her
just
about that.
talked about the same like webtoon comic that we're
Oh.
reading.
mm,
Oh, funny.
So
Sure. Is it that newer one she had just recently started? I forget what it's
let's
called. It's
play.
yeah, what's that about again?
Yeah, it's the girl who wants to be a video game developer, and then she's like sending her game
Right.
out there, and she's got like a harem of boys who are like kind of
Right.
interested in
Yeah.
her. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah.
cute.
nice.
I highly
Yeah, she
recommend also.
okay. Sounds good.
Cool.
I'm having enough trouble just keeping up to date on like Lore Olympus, and that's like
Oh,
literally the
for
only one I'm
sure.
regularly following. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I saw some products in the store for that now. Like it's
For
getting big
Lore
enough
Olympus.
Lore
where
Olympus?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
think it was
huge.
Box Lunch. They
Mhm.
sell like
Oh, okay.
nerdy things and stuff and I think I
Yep.
Sure.
had something from that. So,
I saw her first like book. She did like a compilation book of a lot of her webcomics, and I saw it
Yep.
at Barnes and
mm,
Noble before Christmas. I was like, oh,
okay.
Yep.
Lore Olympus. So
Nice.
yeah, she actually
So that's what
she
I've
just got
been
done with that.
oh good.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna
Well,
say she
it's
just got
caught
done with like
it's still
on
going, right?
hiatus. It's still going. She's on
Oh,
hiatus right now. Yeah, just
Yep.
got to a
okay.
hiatus, so it'll be a while before she puts on anything new. But
Right.
Cool. So that's what I've been reading. I've been playing.
Mhm.
I've been back into Animal Crossing some more and Outer Worlds. Halo when I get the chance. That's been
Mhm.
fun. Finally getting a little bit better at that. So I try not to bring my team down too much, and
Mhm.
so gotta work on it. And then Book of Boba Fett started today. The
That's
Book of Boba
right.
Fett, Disney Plus. So
Oh my god.
um, their Star Wars is like a dim, dying star, but there's like a little twinkle of life left, and that's in the worlds that John Favreau's creating. And so I'm the first episode is directed by Robert Rodriguez, and was pretty good. Good start. So yeah,
Excellent.
is that
Yep,
sorry?
that's
I'm not.
on my list.
Is that like a follow up of The Mandalorian, essentially? Kind of like continuing on in that
it's
same
a
vein,
spin-off.
or
Yeah,
spinoff?
it's
Okay.
in the
Yeah.
same time period. And
hmm
yeah. So they're still
Okay.
going for I think they're still going for with the Mandalorian. I don't know that for sure, I
Mhm.
guess. But
Okay.
yeah, this is separate.
Okay.
So
It's actually a show I only got about
um
halfway through, and then I got distracted and never got back to it. So,
Mhm.
but I've obviously heard good
through
things.
the season 1, Mandalorian season
Halfway
1.
through, got about halfway through season one, and then got busy with
Okay.
something, never went back to it. So it's still on my
Yeah.
list to try to finish up at some point. But
Yeah, it's an interesting show. I mean, it's generally the thing like the Star Wars fan base is so split these days, but
mm,
Mhm.
it's kind of the one thing that most people have generally approved of. So
hmm
it's
Mhm.
pretty but it's one of those things if you're I don't know, it's I don't want to say divisive, but it has different takes from people that aren't in the Star Wars universe. So like I have a
mm,
friend that's not really He's never been into Star Wars. He's never gotten
Mhm.
interested in it. But The Mandalorian
Mhm.
was the thing that got him interested, and that
Right.
worked
Oh,
for
okay.
him. It's kind of what he wanted to
Sure.
see. So,
Okay.
and
Cool.
other
Well,
people
and it
are
was.
like, I don't see a lot of Jedi around, so I don't care. So it's
Mhm.
Sure.
definitely
Mhm.
But The Mandalorian was really the crux of like Disney Plus, like kind of launching their streaming
Mhm.
yeah,
platform.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can see that. Yeah.
Okay. So of course, Wheel of Time then as well. That's been our weeks, and we'll talk about Wheel of Time now. So Renato, if you're there watching yet, I hope you're caught up on Wheel of Time from Amazon
Mm-hmm.
and
About to
Sony.
lay down some spoilers.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Andrew and I, if you've been following the show, have been talking every other week about every few episodes at a time. We've
Mhm.
now got the last 2 episodes of the season, episodes 7 and 8, to discuss. But Phil wasn't here for earlier episodes and stuff, so we'll of course be talking about the season in its entirety.
Mhm.
Yep. Thick King Renato is out. I'm sorry. Lower the volume. Okay, perfect. We do appreciate you being around and jumping in. But yes, I am sorry for the spoilers to come. All right. So as I said, Wheel Time 7 and 8. But
Mhm.
Phil, as a book reader, as a fan of the source material, how has the
Source.
series been? Oh yeah, okay. Pun very unintended.
Yep.
Um, how do you feel it's been going?
Yeah, I think overall I've really enjoyed it. I think the first 2 or 3 episodes I loved. I thought it was like great. I just loved the overall. I love the cinematography and like the music and the overall tone and the vibe of the show. I try to be succinct here. I thought they lost their way a little bit in the middle, like the middle 3 episodes. I feel like they spent a lot of time on like the Aes Sedai and Aes Sedai culture and the Warder culture. And while that's important, it's not that central to the first book. I didn't think they had to spend 3 whole episodes on it. And Yeah, and so I'll kind of come back to that, and we'll talk about that later, I'm sure too. But and then the last 2 episodes I really liked again. So I think yeah. So my overall takeaway, and then we can talk specifics too. But my overall takeaway is I like the vibe and the tone and the music, like especially like the music and the cinematography, and it was like high production value. It's just really good. But they just some of the changes they made to the storyline I just didn't think needed to be. And then I mean, obviously they're gonna cut stuff out when you're taking such a huge book and trying to synthesize it into a TV show. You're obviously gonna lose stuff and lose like minor storylines and minor characters and stuff. But they like did that, but then they also like rearranged some stuff, and then they like added some stuff in that didn't need to be there. It's like don't cut cool stuff out and cool characters out, and then add in stuff that doesn't need to be there.
Okay,
So that
so
was like
let's
my
take you.
annoyance.
So we've got a lot here. Um, uh, what what are some like uh, what are some of the bigger changes that have bothered you?
Mhm,
Um,
mhm. Well, they never went. So, like, there's a whole section of the book where some of the characters are in Camelin, which is the capital of Andor.
Mhm.
Andor's technically the country or like the land that the Two Rivers is in. So it's technically like you know uh, I don't want to like spoil stuff for future books and stuff, but like some of the characters meet some very major characters that run throughout the whole series in Camelin before they ever even go to Tarvalon. So it's
Yeah.
Camelin's actually technically where he meets Lowell for the first time. It's just I don't know. So like they're cutting major characters out that they'll eventually have to put in. So
They
ostensibly
will.
they will eventually, but it's just like so out of order.
but then you don't have the
It's
connection that you don't have the connection
Right.
to make them more important and more meaningful
right,
when you do see them,
right,
right?
right.
Well, if I can get since we are spoilery right now,
Mhm.
um they have talked quite a bit actually already about season 2, which is currently filming.
Mm-hmm.
And because season 2 is greenlit even before 1 dropped. Amazon
Yep.
was confident.
Right.
So they are going to be going to Camelin in season 2 and meeting said important character that I know you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about. She's
Mm-hmm.
already been
Mm-hmm.
cast. Spoiler
Oh.
alert, she's a she.
Ooh. Well. Yeah. Right.
She's been cast, so
Mm-hmm.
it's happening in season 2. I
Mm-hmm.
half agree with you, Phil. It's really frustrating to like have these things happen like wildly out of order. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
on the other hand, like I get where the show needed to streamline and just I think focus on our like base of characters in the first season
Sure.
and not introduce somebody new. Even though I
Sure.
agree that they could have then like not introduced other new people if that was the point.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I wonder
Or
if
just like
they'll.
scenes that didn't need to be done, like that
Yep.
the characters like wouldn't have done, like that. For example, sorry, just let me give you an
No, go
example.
ahead.
That whole like the episode the episode I liked the least was the one with like the funerals, like the Aes Sedai funeral and the Warder
Oh
funeral at the
yeah.
end. Just because I feel like it was a lot of stuff that none of really hardly any of that was in the books.
Yeah.
Um, Even like the whole thing about like Logain escaping. Logain isn't really in the first book all that much at all.
I
Like, and
know, but I
so
love
it's just
Logain. Ugh,
sure. I mean, I think it's
I
good. I like it for
yeah.
what it is, but it's just like that whole episode is basically added in that's not in the book, and it's just a waste of time they could have used for other cool stuff that's in the show or that's in the book. So,
Mhm.
anyway, so to get
So
back to my point, like at the end when they had that like Warder funeral and like Lan was like really emotional, it's like also, and this is getting a little nitpicky, but like
Land isn't that
Bookland
emotional.
would never do that.
Yeah, I
That is
agree.
not Bookland. Like he does not express
w-
emotion like that.
we said
So
that we talked about
Yes.
that
okay,
when we covered the
okay,
episode. Not from my perspective, not knowing that he would not do that, but just
uh-huh.
that the scene
It didn't need to
was
be there.
was yeah, it didn't
It's
hit
strange,
because it was over.
right?
We didn't have a real built relationship over the course of like a season between
Yeah,
these two characters that would
right.
elicit such a reaction for us as an
Yeah,
Mhm.
audience.
agreed.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think they could have done this in a much more streamlined way because I think there were elements that we as an audience and especially people coming to this fresh needed to know
Hmm.
about like the Aes Sedai Warder bonds and how those
Sure,
worked and how important
sure.
those were so that we
Hmm.
could like understand the depth of relationship between Moraine and Lan
Hmm.
and what were the stakes if either one of them should die.
Hmm.
Um and
Hmm.
also to understand why Nynaeve is so like concerned because she's developing feelings for Lan why
Hmm.
about this like Aes Sedai Warder bond because
Sure.
it's a pretty big staple of the books and it's a pretty big contentious area between the three of them who are this
Hmm.
like weird like romantic and also non-romantic triangle.
Sure.
Um
Oh, sure. But
so
yeah,
I mean, I felt like some of that needed to be there, but I
sure.
agree with you that that Warder funeral scene, that whole thing could have just been gone
well,
and
Yeah.
would
the
have been
funeral
fine.
of the Aes Sedai made sense,
Yeah,
and
I
Sure.
seeing
agree with
how
you.
the
Yep, yep.
connection of the bond there with the warder, and then I thought
Yeah.
it was tragic that
Yes.
he ended up taking his own life. That was
Sure.
good,
Hmm.
Yes,
but
I agree
then
with you.
his
All
funeral
that.
was good because we talked like the only poignant moment in that was again seeing uh Lorraine,
Moraine.
yeah, like her kind of starting to beat her own chest because of
Hmm.
feeling the pain
Sure.
Mhm.
of land,
That Lan was
but yeah.
feeling,
Sure.
yeah.
So
Well,
so I
and
agree.
yeah,
I was going to say I agree with all those points, Andrea. It's important to make that clear to the audience. I just don't think they need to do 3 episodes to like do it.
I
I just
agree
think
with
it's
you.
yeah.
Yeah. They
So
could have
Mhm.
streamlined a lot of that.
yeah.
And yeah, the I mean, like you said, like um Stepan's Aes Sedai, I cannot Karenni. Her funeral was again an important moment. We could have
Hmm.
streamlined it, but like then yeah, like understanding Stepan's bond to her was important. Understanding
Sure.
that like, hey, there's this possibility that warders can transfer bonds to new Aes
Hmm.
Sedai. It doesn't really happen a whole bunch, but
Hmm.
again, that's like a
Hmm.
big setup for some major things that could be
Sure.
happening in the show because those are major plot points in the books,
Sure.
Well,
especially
and
with our core 4 teenage
Sure.
group here.
Right. Right.
what I brought up then last time was how um that's that makes sense, but then we immediately see Moraine leave, like
Yeah.
shut off her bond, clause, I forget what they call it, but like make it so land can't censor. And it's
Dampen.
like, oh,
Mhm.
that's
Mask the bond.
immediate, and that's a huge deal. Like, wouldn't that feel like a piece of you is now just like dark? And so it went through building up this big importance to then just making it seem like nothing in a way. And we got that in the later episodes too. Like, I'm running away, so I'm turning it off,
Right. Yeah.
light switch. And then Andrea explained that in the books, they say it's a lot more complicated, difficult procedure to be able to learn to do that. And so
Yeah,
like,
once
it's
you
not
learn to
just a
do
simple
it,
thing.
once you
Sure.
learn to do it, it's fine, but it's like a lot of trial and error to like mask your bond because emotions tend to slip through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting. So you said, was it Logain, or what's the name of the guy that was claiming to be the Dragon
Logain.
Reborn?
Logain.
Okay.
Yep.
So you said that happens later. It's interesting because I did like that stuff a lot. But if it could have gone later, it might have been interesting because we really don't need more competition for them to already be including women as a possibility to be the Dragon Reborn. And you've got this group. You've already got enough possible choices to compete against. You need to throw in another one to make them, I don't know.
Yeah, that I think was a little bit of a failing of the show, and I know that for those who hadn't seen it, it was very interesting that a woman could be the Dragon Reborn. In the books, definitely no. So it makes more sense that and Logain's character, like is that foil, a little bit more smoothly. So yeah, so it's difficult because I really like his character and he is going to be reappearing. I won't say how much or in what capacity. But yeah, it's a little bit of a trip up to like focus on him is very important, but then also be like, oh, but any of these guys could be, the Dragon Reborn too.
Right. Yeah. And so I wouldn't be so critical of some of like the changes they made to the storyline if they had done like a longer season. If they had done like 12 episodes. There's just so many cool things that they weren't able to add that I kind of bummed me out. So
yeah, I did feel like, considering this is, clearly Amazon is banking on this to be one of the bigger things. They got two irons in the fire here for this. They're also gonna place their bets on Lord of the Rings, but
right.
You've got this. It did seem like they tried to do a lot fast. Which, look, I'm okay with the show not dragging, because that's definitely been an issue in shows where they're trying to hit a certain episode count and then it feels really stretched out.
Sure.
But I could have used some stretching at points. Like I could have used where, I want the journey that Wolf Guy and
Perrin.
I don't know I'm sorry, Phil. I apologize in advance. I don't
Egwene.
know most of their names.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Perrin and Egwene.
Say their names again. Egwene and who? Perrin?
Perrin and Egwene,
okay.
yep.
So like I could have used to feel like that was more of a journey, I know it was. I know they went a long ways or whatever, but I could have used to feel that more. I kind of reminded, especially in these last episodes where they're going through the taint or whatever, through the taint.
The blight.
The blight.
Yeah, the
that's
blight.
what it is. Yes. Dragon Age is the taint. Well, it's a blight
taint
there
is
too.
something
Whatever.
else.
Well, there's I was gonna say there is a taint in this series. It's just the taint on Satan.
It's the taint.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So they're going through the blight, and to me, I was reminded of playing Dungeons and Dragons and thinking I need to have, if the group is going through the swamp, there needs to be things to do in the swamp. You don't just like over the course of it could be a whole course of the entire session, like 4 hours long or something like that. And you don't just like, well, you walk through the swamp, it was really muddy, and now you're at the end of the swamp.
Right.
You got to have things happen along the way. So I wanted to see an arduous journey. Like these guys, they're leaving, they're going far away. It's miles. They're struggling to survive. They're being attacked by beasts, like whatever challenges along the way, as
So
opposed to just like,
yeah,
we're
are you
through it.
talking about like the blight? Are you talking about the ways? Or are you talking about specifically like Perrin and Egwene when they're traveling with
I thought you were talking about the
teacher,
blight.
like the
I kind of
Tuathon.
confused. It was two separate things. So Egwene and Perrin, I'm just saying I could have felt like their journey was a longer one. And then
Sure.
separately and more specifically in this last episode, going through the
Mm.
blight, through all the vines and
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
needed to
Okay.
have things along the way to make
Right.
me
Yeah. Sure.
understand that's really perilous. It's
There's
kind of
like
like
just
the
like a
hobbits going
creepy.
into the forest off the path, and they have to deal with like divisions and getting lost and all this stuff. You know?
Right. It was
Sure.
just kind of like a creepy stroll in the woods.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And then
Notwithstanding,
we're there
though,
at our target.
Right.
I gotta
Right.
commend like the makeup and effects team for that like creepy rotting mushroom corpse. Like,
Yeah, that was cool.
ugh,
That was
that was
awesome. Yeah, that was
cool.
cool. Yeah.
They like nailed some stuff in these
Mhm.
last couple of episodes, like that, and then
Yep.
also like jumping ahead a little bit, the women who were defending Faldara and drawing too much
Mhm.
of Sadar and being burned out from the inside through their eye, like,
D
dude, the
Remind me, is
makeup
that
of
how it
that, the effects of that,
Right, oh, yeah. That was cool.
it was great.
It I was gonna ask you, Andrea, is that how it's
Yeah,
portrayed in the books? Like, if you get if a Aes Sedai burns herself out, she, like, dies, or she just burns herself out, loses the power? Like,
can be
like,
both.
stills herself, essentially.
Can be both,
Oh,
depending on
okay.
how much power she draws. Yeah, they don't describe it as like burning themselves from the inside out, literally.
Right.
I know that's how they figuratively describe it, but
Yeah.
Aes Sedai can draw enough power to kill herself.
Okay.
Um,
I thought it was only if they're fooling around with, like, Terangriel, like, super powerful, they don't understand or whatever.
right, right.
But that still, like, didn't happen, I don't believe. Like, Nynaeve and Egwene didn't almost die at the end of
No, no,
in that
not
battle. I mean, they
that
weren't.
specifically, but yeah, they've
Right.
talked about in the books other Aes Sedai, like you
Right,
said,
yes.
who've been channeling with like Terangriel and
Right.
Saangriel,
Yeah.
with like literally,
So
like you
I'm
said,
not
stilled
super sure
themselves
that
or burned
Nynaeve.
out.
Right. I'm not so sure that Nynaeve channels at all in the first book. Like, that's how, like, weird and out of order some of these things are.
It's if it's not the first, it's the second, because she
Right.
does do a form of channeling without consciously thinking about it in the
Sure.
first
Yeah,
book.
I guess, yeah. And it's just like it just seems like some of the characters' story arcs are speeding up a bit.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, they kind of did some one, like a bunch of one, and then just like dipped into two, the Great Hunt.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. But,
So
yeah.
I'll gonna we'll definitely get back to those that conflict and how that
Mhm.
battle goes and stuff. I wanted to say it was interesting how you laid out the season and what you liked and stuff, because I felt like almost a complete opposite.
Mm.
I think that
I was thinking that as
episode
you were saying that. Yeah.
yeah, that episode 1 is like Phil was saying this is so good, and then like I don't know,
Mm.
because I had issues with, and I still have issues, honestly, with production. I think
Okay.
that there's definitely a grit, a realism, cinematography skill that I think is missing from the
Mm.
show to make it, because they definitely aren't. They're not shying away from like making things mean, or bloody or
Sure.
something like that. It's not
No.
that.
No.
It's just like it's a tone. I think that early on, especially, it felt like everything was over contrasted. I thought they
Mm.
crushed the blacks in a lot of areas. You can see like
Mhm.
they've just they're overextending what their black range is on things.
Mhm. Mm.
I just don't like the look of it generally, and
Okay.
but it changes at times. There's other times that come out and they're really cool, but
Mhm.
Mhm.
yeah, I'm wishing this had it doesn't feel like it has a high enough budget. And maybe it's like,
Mm.
well, we don't know how it's gonna go. We're trying to do a ton of seasons here to make this story work. I'm
Mhm.
hoping with the success of the show,
Mhm.
they put more into it and they get some
Sure.
more deft eye in
Mhm.
some of the
Mhm.
places,
Mhm.
because I think even effects wise, like you
Mhm.
compare some of the magic of this to like just Harry Potter,
Sure.
the creativity that, I'm always astounded at the creativity of visual effects designers, the way they can make like the battle between Voldemort and Dumbledore so freaking
Mhm.
amazing.
Mhm.
And I don't, want to see that here. And right now I'm just mostly getting like misty lines, going or whatever.
Sure.
So I have production issues, though the
Sure.
season has grown on me. Like every time I'm kind of sitting down, not super excited to watch it. And then I get
Mhm.
pulled in as I'm watching it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
It's funny. I was
Fair enough.
thinking. I was thinking I have been impressed actually with the effect growth. I agree. I was having a hard time in the early episodes, especially with channeling. Um, like the actual weaves and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
touching the source, like coming through.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't quite feeling it. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
feeling well done, and I started liking it more. When they were shielding Logain and sort of that, like kind of in the cage work that they were
Mm-hmm.
doing between like him being in there, and then when he like escapes and
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
melts the
That's kind of
cage,
cool.
and he
Sure.
was like creating
Yeah.
the shark. Like I felt like
Mm-hmm.
they were sort of like figuring some things out, what worked for
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I did have a note in this last episode. Like again, I loved the circle of women channeling to defend Faldara. It
Mm-hmm.
felt better. It felt more like we know what we're doing. I still wasn't
Mm-hmm.
quite loving it, but like I think they're getting there. I think they're getting to like a place where they can like do some really cool things with
Mm-hmm.
channeling.
There's like a weight to that is difficult to make look weighty in magic. And
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
so it's like when they do again I'll go back to Harry Potter for magic things. Like they do
Sure.
stuff like in the first two Harry Potter movies, it's basically I say this spell and I do this and then something shoots out and
Mm-hmm.
hits the person. That's
Mhm.
the limit of their imagination at that point. And that's kind of what's described in
Right.
the book or whatever. So that's what they
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
That's where this is right now. Whereas you get all of a sudden to, I think, 4 and 5 and later in the
Mm-hmm.
series, and they're like they're each actor's kind of getting into it their own way, the way they
Mm-hmm.
cast a spell. There's
Mm-hmm.
the spell might come off more than just the tip of their wand. It's like a,
Mm-hmm.
like it's got to be hard to act. It's
Mhm.
got to be
Mm-hmm.
hard to visualize, but I think
Mm-hmm.
can be done something a lot more impressive. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting the chills talking about the like way they demonstrate magic in Harry Potter because I get that when I see it. And different
Mm-hmm.
shows have different levels of that. There's some in The
Sure.
Witcher as well, and
Mm.
I'm missing
Yeah.
that from this
Okay.
show. And
Mm-hmm.
I think they can do it. Right now, it's a double A production instead of a triple A. So
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, I will say, and maybe you guys have talked about this in the past, that really in the books, um, and obviously this doesn't work for TV, but in the books, unless you're Aes Sedai, you can't see the flows. No one else can see the flows of magic. So they had to obviously do something to make it so that the viewers could
Yep.
like see the flows. I mean, you can see like the flows are creating like fireball. You can see the fireball, but you can't actually see the flows that they're using to create like said fireball. Anyway,
Mhm.
but going
Well,
back to your
yeah.
previous. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Andrew.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, they definitely needed to have you see it, which I think is a
Right.
blessing and a curse because
Right.
some things would probably be cooler without seeing those lines because sometimes they
Yeah.
can look goofy.
They do
Um,
look kind of
but
goofy. Yeah.
but they needed you to see it because they needed you to see the taint on Satan and what happens when a
Sure.
male channels. You know what
Totally.
I mean? Like
Yeah.
that was like
Mhm.
such a huge part. So unfortunately
Mhm.
they were I felt like they were hampered by that. They needed
Mhm.
you to like see that it's a physical thing because
Right.
it's not well explained and it takes so much
Mhm.
time in the lore to like go through like all of
Yeah.
that and they were just like
Right.
speedy
They just gotta
time.
show it. Right.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
what if it was like more generally speaking, we saw it like so like you say, if they're throwing fireball, you see the fireball. But
Mhm.
what if it's
Mhm.
more like distortion? So it's not physical like
Yeah.
silvery glow. It's like a distortion to the air, or something
I
like
think
that. And you could have a lot
I'd
of,
prefer that personally
I
you
versus
yeah,
like
know,
I
smoke.
agree.
and what if you
Yeah.
I'm
see
just
Personally.
like
not sure.
the
I'm
taints, like what if that's like you're walking and it's just like there's like almost a black fumes or something like that. They're
To the
kind of
distortion.
wispy
Yeah.
or something. I don't know. Just I feel
Yeah.
like
yeah.
Yeah.
they need someone that's really creative here to because
Yeah.
this is something that again, if they hadn't embellished from Harry Potter what was written
Mhm.
in the books, it would be kind
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
boring that way
Sure.
and wouldn't be
Right.
particularly impressive. So clearly
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
set to their special effects people like, I challenge you, how does a wizard duel look? Like let your
Mhm.
mind fly. And I think they
Right.
could
Mhm.
do that here. And I don't think fans would I don't think fans would complain if it was not exactly book accurate, if it
Mhm.
was really impactful.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
I feel like they probably had like an effects team test some different things out, which I would be interested to see like what
Yeah.
kinds of variations there were
Mhm.
and like how it
Mhm.
looked on camera. you know, because I'm
Yeah.
sure they probably did say, like, you know, starting out, maybe we don't have to show the weaves, you know, maybe we don't
Mhm.
have to show like the source and the power like flowing literally.
Mhm.
But I wonder if
Mhm.
it just didn't take somehow and it wasn't
You know,
like, you know, conveying the same idea. Cause I do love this, like, when we see Logain working and we see like the taint come in, like as a book fan, I was just like, oh, there it is. There it is. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm so
Sure.
excited. Or like when
Mhm.
Rand is working with it, or when in the final episodes, Ishamael is working with it, and you see like the taint come in with their flows of
Mhm.
Satan. It was
Mhm.
just like, it was, as a book nerd, it was like a cool moment.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but then, yeah, but
Agreed.
then on the flip side, I have a really hard time when the women channel and it's just like white ropes of light. I don't know.
mhm.
I don't know how to solve that.
Mhm.
I think they need a like a animator to like come in and
There you
give
Come
go.
them
in and
some
get
off the
creative.
wall,
Yeah.
like
I was
yeah.
gonna say maybe someone from their production team will see this podcast episode and be like, "We gotta hire these guys,
Bring in some
You know,
consultants.
I'm
creative
just
creative
yeah, yeah.
consultants."
That's so okay, sorry. Weird nerdy piece of trivia. There is a consultant, a super fan consultant on the Amazon Prime show. I just looked up her name. But yeah, they hired like a super fan of the Wheel of Time series who's done like
Oh, nice,
multiple
good.
Oh, sure.
podcasts and YouTube videos and stuff like that. They were like, "Holy shit, like she is super knowledgeable, like bring her on in
Yeah.
as a consultant." So,
Well, I
That's
know they've
good.
also used Brandon Sanderson as a consultant too,
yes. Mhm.
so that's good. But be better if Robert Jordan wasn't dead and he could be a consultant himself. But obviously,
Right,
he
right.
is
I mean,
dead. So
yeah.
I think
spoilers.
what I
If
would
anybody
have
didn't know.
done is have it where you don't really you see that like I'm saying like a distortion
Hmm.
until one of our main characters, one of the kids channels, and you can kind
Oh,
of
Hmm.
then
sure.
see it through their eyes for the first time that they
Sure.
now
Yeah.
can see this and we get to,
Hmm.
be a kind of
That'd be
extra
cool. Yeah.
surprise. Because
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
that point, then it's kind of an Obi-Wan Kenobi thing. Like, what is the Force? What can you really do? Like, and
Right.
Right.
you're wowed by the mysticism of it, and you just see little
Right.
peeks of what they can do, and then it
Right.
kind of fills in later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think it would have helped with like Moraine, you know, in Two Rivers for the first time, like battling the
Hmm.
Trollocs. That was a big one for me where I felt like she was
Yeah.
making so many unnecessary motions. There was like
Yeah.
extra
It's wispy
like
gestures that have no
circling.
connection
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the
So
Yeah.
that
weight
could
that
have
I'm
That.
been
talking
really
about.
cool.
Mhm.
So I agree with you, John. As far as like some of those like production things, I wasn't like nuts about. And I don't just kind of go back to your
Yeah.
previous
Mhm.
point that you started this off with this section, as far as like you're kind of the opposite of me. Um, I don't know about like movie and show production probably as well as you, as far as like I didn't notice some of those like color choices and color saturation issues and stuff like that, just because I'm not as versed in that stuff, and like I've never created content myself, and I'm just more of a consumer just generally, and I'm more of just kind of a gut like watcher. I just kind of watch and I don't I mean I analyze it, but not. I'm more just like really get sucked in pretty easily, and so I can see where you're coming from with some of those production choices that weren't great or maybe didn't have the right budget. But like I just love the overall. For me, it was like I'm a tried and true, like, was in high school when like the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring came out. And like I love those like super wide shots of like fantasy
Yep.
vistas, like mountains and
Yep.
stuff. So I loved that they like did some of that same kind of stuff. And um so yeah, so that's kind of where I'm getting
I
at with
I
just,
Mhm.
and I
No,
like
agree. And
the
it's a
world
mixed
building
it's a
aspect
mixed
of it.
bag.
I loved.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we were all talking about like Shadar Logoth. Like we
Loved it.
loved the creation of like the wall, the city, like, you know,
Mhm.
things
Hmm.
like that were really,
Yeah, love
really
that.
cool.
Those kind of shots I loved. But yeah, no, I agree. There's definitely somewhere I was like, this is a little like not quite
It's
up to snuff.
it's one of those things I kind of say there's a sort of an explosion of shows like this. And I say double A or
Mhm.
triple A because that's what it's used in the video game
Mhm.
space a lot.
Oh, sure.
It's kind of like um game tools to okay, so when I grew up, all of a sudden it was becoming way more accessible to create your own video content. Like
Mhm.
for a long time,
Mhm.
it was a difficult process. You're going to shoot on
Mhm.
film with a very large camera. It's kind of expensive. You got to go and literally cut the film together, or you're sitting there with a VHS tape, record, you know, like it's a complicated process to make something that is nowhere near what Hollywood is doing. It's not even, you're not even going to be looked at in close the same way. And then growing up, digital video started to become a thing, and your computer came with iMovie, and you could like start doing things. More people could start doing stuff. Now you can shoot something pretty good looking on an iPhone. So it's a democratization of the medium. And so video games the same way. Like the tools are way more accessible and readily available to anyone to just make a game. So you can get these pretty impressive games that are made by like 2 people. And it's like, wow, this is great. But it doesn't have the motion capture. It doesn't have the finesse that a AAA one does. That's millions and millions of dollars are spent to make. Yeah. And so both are very good, and both can be enjoyed and have great content. And it's like, that's, you know, the AA one relies more on the story or the game mechanic than having effects or something special to look at, you know? So I think we're in that space in TV where anyone almost can make something pretty damn good. But I think honestly, the story, the epic scale of this, the way it borrows from a lot of different things and can make something pretty interesting. I think it does deserve, and I was hoping for the Lord of the Rings budget kind of thing. Like I want that. I want Lord of the Rings in this format. I want to, you know, believe I'm everywhere I am. I want that grit. I want that cinematography, and I'm just getting glimpses of it. So
yeah, that's fair. Okay.
That's my rant on that. But how do you think about like if you have more to say on it, go for it. But otherwise, what do you think of the characterizations? So I listened to a YouTuber that his name is Randall Thor 19, and I had no idea anything about that or where that came from. And then just in a few episodes ago, I'm like, oh, his full name is Randall Thor. Wow, okay, that's what that is from. And so obviously these characters mean a lot to a lot of people. There is a lot going on for them. Are there big standout hits or misses, do you think?
As far as just the way the actors are portraying them, like
general portrayal, like how the character is portrayed from what they're given dialogue wise, and then the actual casting and
Yeah, I overall was pretty happy with it, with the casting and like the portrayals. As much as there's parts of like, you know, I'll get to the main cast, but Lan is someone where I have kind of a love-hate like opinion of like the actor portrayal. Like, there's times and some of the dialogue that I think is like, oh, that's perfect. That's just like very like he's like really the character in the book is really soft-spoken. He doesn't use a lot of words. He's very quiet. But then when he says something, it like carries a lot of power. So there's times when he really does, but he's also a very like stoic like guy, and this guy is like the actor plays him to be a little bit more
soft.
Like sensitive and soft. Yeah, like in the episode with when she goes to meet Swan in their little like getaway place. He's like, "Oh, give her my love." I was just like, I watched that episode with my buddy Lance, and I was just like, we both read the books, and we're both like, Swan, or we're like, Lan would never say that in the books. Like, that's just ridiculous. It's like, well, and also in the books, like Moraine and Swan aren't in a relationship. And it's hinted at a little. What? It's like hinted at barely.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the things in the books are like very like, you know, hinted at, and like the show has to make them so much more overt, I think.
Sure.
Because I was talking with John about this earlier, where like, in the book they're pillow friends, which Robert Jordan basically confirmed is code for lovers. But like, in the books it's like they're pillow friends. There's no like secret scenes where they stow away together.
Or like they were when they were novices, like, which is more common they talk about. But then when they kind of like it's kind of referred to as like they sort of grow out of it, and like they don't spend a lot of time together necessarily because they're all off traveling and doing stuff for the White Tower and stuff. So it's fine. I'm not like upset that they added that in. Makes sense.
Before you move on, I want to say, wouldn't it have had a great impact if we had no idea of that relationship, and then she's exiled, and you think, wow, you know, like big trouble for this. And then
Yeah.
way later, we're like,
find
they're
out.
actually were like
Right.
doing this, figured
That's
it
kind
out
of how it
together,
is.
you know?
Yeah, that's more how it is in the books.
Yep.
Anyway.
Mm.
But as far as other characterization, I really liked everybody. Yeah, I thought actually that Rand was a good choice. He's a character in the books that, like, obviously he's a very major character. And there's times in the books where he's super annoying, like very like you want to just like kind of give him a smack because it's just like whatever. He just can be a little like whiny.
Whiny?
I don't know, Andrea.
Okay.
What? Yeah, or just like
Ginger Anakin, as John cares to call him.
yeah.
Yes,
Anyway, I think this actor
he's
does a good
very much
job.
feels his he very much feels his teenage years in the book. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like he just
for
isn't
sure.
mature yet, and as much
Right.
as you want him to be, he just isn't. Which again fits, I think, in this. Even as annoying as it is, like he
Yeah.
just goes like wildly back and forth. He's very emotionally reactive. Like feels things were meant to be a certain way, and like every time something deviates, he's just like, oh my God, like, yeah, he's still like, I'm small town, Two Rivers,
Right.
Randolph Thor, even though like he's been in the wide world for so long now, he's the Dragon
Yeah.
Reborn. He just like,
Right.
he's so oblivious, and you're just like, get
Yeah.
with the
And
times, man.
he has a real hard time like taking advice and stuff.
Yes.
So he's just super stubborn in the books. He's
Yeah.
very similar actually in the show. So I thought they did a good job with that. I think he looks right.
Yeah.
I think
It looks right,
generally
for
what
sure.
they did with the Aiel, just overall all the Aiel they showed is like that's pretty exact how they describe him in the books with like the ginger hair and like tall and thin. And I hope they do more with Aiel in season 2 because that's a super interesting like culture
Yes.
separate from like most of the people.
The people.
So Rand's mother that we get, jumping to the last 2 episodes here,
Yep.
who we see give birth on the slopes of Dragon Mountain during a battle. She's a member of a tribe of people called the Aiel. And they have a whole subculture that I believe we are going to learn about in season 2.
I'm sure we have to. Yeah.
So they're the clan of, they live and die by the spear. They have like spear
Like
maidens.
warlike
So that's what
people.
the Ogier was saying, right? That's what he was calling before.
Yes, he was
'Cause
calling him an
Aiel, yeah.
Aiel.
the
An
symbol and stuff.
Aielman.
Yep.
Yep. And
it's a
the
culture
form
where
of
women
dress
are
that she
right
has.
too.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, they're just as fierce as
Yep.
the men, even more so in some aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way that they did the costuming, the dress, like everything about that was just like spot on from what you describe in the books. So
Right.
So
excited to see more of that.
with his mother, so I thought I liked that stuff a lot, and I definitely took a note. Was it episode 7 that started that way, or episode 7? So I immediately I wrote, did someone else direct this? Much better fight scene than we usually get.
That fight
Because
scene was
immediately
awesome.
I was like, okay, this looks better. Just in the whole presentation, and they didn't. A lot of times we get in this what people that seem to be unfamiliar with shooting action sequences, they get lazy and do, and like it's a lot of jump cuts. It's a lot up close. You can't tell what's going on, and they pulled back. They clearly got a little bit of fight choreography going here that was at a higher level than the rest of the show. And I don't know if it's a new person, they just got in someone else, if it's a second director that they should promote, or what happened. But I liked it.
Sure.
It was good.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I had a note in there. It's just like it hints at the general like badassness of the Aiel. They're like, nothing slows us down. Doesn't matter if I'm pregnant, like, about to give birth. I'm in labor. Still gonna like fight off like 12 of these soldier guys and give birth at the same time. Like as someone who's recently gone through, the birthing experience, like don't know if I could do that. So
well,
this woman is amazing. I mean,
Right.
I wasn't in that situation, but I'm just saying, like, it's pretty amazing. So
I definitely noted I wanted to know how she got there. Like how would this come to be? Because this is a bad place to be pregnant right now. And but yeah, and then the reveal with Rand's adoptive father was very good.
That was good. Yeah.
I was good with the de-aging process, and like just a whole that was good. That was a highlight of the series for me, for sure. That stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So
so they're going back to some of the other characters. I would say like they generally did a good job with everybody. Like they're not necessarily how I pictured them in the books, but that's okay. Like, I think they did a good job. I like that they really had a lot of representation in the whole cast, as far as just like, yeah, this is a world. Not everyone would be like a white person. There'd be like other cultures and like other ethnicities and stuff. So I actually really like that.
Is it generally like, because they're obviously in a small town, Two Rivers
Mhm,
Village,
mhm,
whatever, generally that's where there is a lot of homogeneity. Is this an
mhm,
area that like a lot of people would, it's very old or something, that people would come from like other kingdoms and stuff and that would move through,
mhm,
because to me it completely depends what the world is set up like, and I have no idea
mhm,
from the
mhm.
books or whatever,
I don't know
if
that he
it's
specifies that much in the like, as far as like talking. Yeah, I mean they talk about like people from like, Tyr being like darker skinned and stuff. Like, I don't know, yeah,
Right.
from certain areas.
Yeah, he
So,
definitely Robert Jordan definitely builds up like larger cultures to have like very specific characteristics.
mhm,
Like that are easily recognizable. Like when they're in
mhm.
larger cities, they're like, oh, these people
yeah.
are from here, these people are from
Some
Camelin, these people,
A lot
whatever.
of times
But
it's
like,
like the way they dress and stuff too, or the way they like
right,
do their hair or beards also,
exactly.
in
The
addition to
like the
like skin
makeup or
color or
jewelry. Yep,
right.
exactly. The Aiel are kind of unique in that he very
Mhm,
specifically talks about like their red hair and stuff like that
mhm.
because it's
Yeah,
supposed to be a clue for Rand and his origins.
right.
Um, but I think like with the lore of the Two Rivers and like talking about the breaking of the world and like this used to be the city of Manetheren until
Mhm,
like the people were wiped out and went into hiding and then they
mhm,
gradually like came back and built it up. It would
mhm.
be like a mixed kind of grab bag of like these are your survivors from the city,
Right.
they're
Sure.
not just going to
Yeah.
be like,
Like people
all
have
looking the
come to like
same.
join them, yeah. Mhm,
Right, it's whoever survived and now they're, like, slowly rebuilding.
mhm.
So yeah, so I think it works.
Yeah.
I think I think it's more interesting to look at, like, Lan and
Mhm,
Moraine, and kind of, like, the differing, like, Aes Sedai who come from
mhm,
different cultures and how they represent
mhm.
themselves, and, like, those are more interesting things, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's, like, a stretch, like Phil was saying, I don't think it's a stretch to be like, "Yeah, these are, diverse people from the Two Rivers."
Yeah. Right. But and I mean in the whole series, just like they showed a lot of representation, just the entire cast in various areas and stuff.
Mhm.
And then I would say like Perrin and Matt's characters were good, but I liked how the actors played them, but I didn't like some of the decisions that the like writers made to like write their backstories in a certain way to give them like more, I don't know, life trauma.
You mean
Like,
like killing their
Anguish,
wife?
yeah,
killing
like
his
Perrin
wife,
doesn't even
yeah,
have well, he doesn't even have a wife in the books, which
I
I'm sure you
know.
guys have talked about.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
We
and
also did not like that.
yeah,
I
so that
was
wasn't
excited to
necessary.
know his wife. I thought she
Right.
looked cool, and I wanted to know
Yeah.
what happens, and so
And then
then, wow,
accidentally
okay,
kills
she's
her.
gone,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
wasn't in the book at all, I guess. So
Right.
that's was
In the
sad,
book,
but
Perrin already has enough conflict about like battling versus just wants to be a simple blacksmith. He didn't need to add on like all this
mm,
mountain of guilt about how I accidentally killed my pregnant ex-wife or pregnant wife. But
Right.
and then Matt's character, like they added in this whole like he's like from this difficult home. His dad, cheats on his mom. His mom's an alcoholic. Like not taking care of his poor little sisters. Like it was just, and then it made Matt have this like dark edge where yes, like there's all the stuff with the dagger, but he's not like a meat like
Yeah.
when he was under the influence of the dagger, that is pretty true to the story. But like when he's not under the influence of the dagger, he's like pretty happy go lucky and like yes, does like gamble and stuff, but he's not like this guy who like steals
Broody.
stuff from people and yeah, and brooding so much and it's just I don't know. That I didn't love, but that wasn't really the actor's fault. I think that was just how they wrote the character.
Right.
I actually heard they're replacing Matt for the second season.
They are. Mhm.
Are they?
what?
Okay, for real. Yeah. I
Oh
Donald
thought he did a
wow.
fine
Finn.
job. I
Donald
thought some of
Finn.
his
They
jokes
haven't
and
they
stuff were
haven't
funny.
said yeah, they haven't said why they're replacing him, so I don't know if it's like a
Who knows?
conflict or
But
like, a performance issue
yeah.
or whatever. But Donald
Hmm.
He
Finn
was
is going to be the new Matt Cawthon, and I can't remember what
Okay.
he's in. I know he's in something we've watched or at least talked
Hmm.
about. I'm gonna look him
Hmm.
up right now,
Hmm.
but
well,
yeah,
that's too bad because well, I never like recasting, but I mean,
right.
Hmm.
performance-wise, he seems just there with everybody else.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's in
I
The
thought he
Oh,
had some of
Witcher.
the.
That's what he's in.
Oh,
Sorry.
funny.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I agree. I thought it was odd, but maybe the actor wanted to pull out or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking, it seems like they would have contracts there that, I mean, I guess you break
Right.
contract, whatever happens, but
Yeah.
that's too bad.
It's just strange. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, I did want to, uh, if we're at some point, I know we're going to talk about like seasons, the last two episodes, I should say. I did want to talk with you, Andrea, and get your take on, um, like the sort of the last battle, and
The last
um,
battle that clearly wasn't the last battle.
right.
Was so
So
tragic.
I liked it, but I was really disappointed that, and I'm curious what you guys think, and
Yeah.
I'm curious your opinion too, Johnny, as someone who hasn't read the books. I thought it was like I was disappointed they didn't do more explaining of who this guy was that was fighting Rand at the end, because I thought the show made it very. I thought it was the show led you to believe that it was the literal Dark One, when
Mhm.
I believe, as I
It's
heard you
not.
reference earlier, that it was one of the Forsaken,
It is.
most likely a Shemael. How do you
It
know
is.
that though? Well, I think it is too. But did they say something in the show that I missed that would when?
No, they didn't say anything in the show, but if you pause it during any of those scenes, they list the actor in the scenes. Faris
Uh huh.
is Ishamael, father of lies.
Why wouldn't you say that in the show in
Yes.
some way? Everyone,
Yep.
Dana was like, "Oh, it's
Oh
the Dark One."
man. Okay.
I was like,
So
I didn't
firstly,
make.
I feel
Uh,
spoiled. Like I feel like I got a spoiler right now, but at the
I
same
mean,
time,
it,
then
it
they
is.
list him in the casting as like because I totally thought this was the Dark One,
right. So
and
did
and
Dana.
then I'm like, well,
Yeah.
how is he? Like, he can't be actually dead or trapped or whatever,
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
because it can't be
No,
concluded now.
I
So it
had my
makes
Right.
sense that it's
suspicions.
not him,
I did
but
too.
I had my suspicions right when, the one of the cool effects again that I commend the team for, when Rand, they're meeting in the Blight in his dream, and he
Hmm.
shoots an arrow in his eye, and he twists off that
Yeah,
like
that was
mask
cool.
to
That was
like
cool.
become a
yeah,
person, and I was like,
Yeah.
no, that is not the Dark One.
No.
And so
Right.
I knew then
I
it
have the same
had to be
thought.
one of the Forsaken. But again,
Yep.
that's because I've read the books and I know what the Forsaken are.
Right. But they
And
barely
so,
talked about them in the show up until
right.
they referenced the Forsaken one time in the show.
Yep.
It's
When
the
they're
fight.
talking
dang,
about the
you're
backstory,
right.
and then
Yeah.
they do, yeah. So they talk about it when I think they're in Tarvalon, in
Yeah,
the White Tower. They're talking about the Forsaken and the
a
Dark
little bit
One.
for like a
Um,
second.
yeah, it's so brief.
But the
Um,
Forsaken are one of the coolest like, cast of characters in the whole book series. Like it's a
well, and
travesty.
again, coming from the book series, I knew when we get Loghain's Siege of Ghealdan,
Hmm.
um, I knew that when he was using Satan and like those two shadow figures are at him, like whispering,
Hmm.
I was like, I know that's the Forsaken. I
Right.
know that's the shadow of the Forsaken.
Hmm.
And so I kind of figured because Ashamael's prominent in the book series, I kind of figured that that was
Yeah,
him.
I thought
And
so
then
too.
yeah,
That being
spoiler
said,
alert for
I
those of you.
sorry, yeah, sorry everybody. Sorry, John. That being said, I loved that actor and the way he like portrayed and like did those scenes. I was like, this is sweet. I was like, I just wish they would point out and explain that this is
He's
one
the
of the
Forsaken.
Forsaken.
I agree.
eh, But so
Yeah. Yeah, that's disappointing because I thought I too I remarked that I really liked his fashion and I just
hmm
like what the actor
yeah,
did.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
absolutely.
was like the fashion seems like it's from the time before everything went to hell. Like
Yeah.
they showed that clip at the beginning,
Hmm.
in their of episode 8, right?
Yeah.
Um
Hmm.
I wrote down like I thought it was really interesting. It says, I'm like, is the world literally reset almost with this? Or is
Yes.
this just like after everything, it's like a post-apocalyptic situation,
So it's a
you know?
post-apocalyptic situation after what an event known as the breaking of the world.
Hmm.
Right. Because I'm like, oh, this is like a futuristic city. Like things
Hmm.
really developed a long
Right.
ways. And now how we
Which
got back
Right.
to,
right.
Yeah.
Which
Like
I mean,
agrarian times.
yeah. So I mean, I knew. So that's like the part of the lore is like the wheel of time turns and ages come and go and like they're
Hmm.
reborn and like they
Hmm.
progress and then you regress and like
Hmm.
ages come again.
Right.
But I'd never really, having read the book, saw like these
A futuristic city,
yeah, I never really saw like
no,
a futuristic city,
like
and it
flying
felt to
cars and
me
stuff, no.
right. It felt to me very like the Chronicles of Shannara book series is set in like a post-apocalyptic world where it's, like the future's progressed so far and it is like, flying cars, the future kind of thing, and then like it all
Hmm.
explodes and then magic is reborn and like that happens. So it was weirdly like that feels like it belongs in a different series. Like I totally
Yeah,
could have been like this is a golden city, like
right.
things were happening, like they had,
Hmm.
amazing
But it doesn't
technology
feel
to
that
a
way in the
point,
books.
but
No,
no, there's no like futuristic elements
no,
in the books.
right. I was like, is that
That seems
Wakanda?
like a
I'm not even sure what this
I
is here.
know, I know. It was so strange. It was so
that seems
strange.
like a big departure.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't
That's
really
pretty
say
weird.
he doesn't really talk that much, at least as far as I'm pretty far into the series. I don't know, three-quarters of the way, two-thirds into the series. I don't remember him ever talking and really describing in detail what the world was like prior to the breaking of the world. Not in any great detail. Do you, Andrea?
No, I agree.
So
There's
maybe
there's
that is
hints for
later.
certain.
So maybe it is open to
Yeah.
your interpretation. Yeah, maybe it is later. They talk more
Yeah.
about it because Andrea and I are both at the same point. Neither of us have actually finished the series. I
Yep.
will say for people who are thinking of reading the series. Sorry to just like take over here on this point, but it is a long, dense series. It's excellent. The first several books are awesome, but there is kind of a slowdown in the middle
Yes.
where it's pretty widely acknowledged by people who read the whole series that like
Yep.
books 7 through like 10 are a little bit drag a little. They're a little harder to get through. Robert Jordan, I think, kind of like lost his way a bit, and it's a lot of setup for the final like 4 books. And then once you hit like
How
11,
many
12, 13,
books?
14, then they're
So much.
apparently I haven't read them yet, but apparently they're excellent. So I'm and Andrea and I are both on Winter's Heart. That's what is that? 9,
9.
Andrea? 9.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
basically we have this one to finish. I'm almost done with it, and I think Andrea's halfway through. And
Mhm.
then 10 is a little bit draggy, and I think what I've been told is 11, 12, 13, and 14, and especially 12, 13, and 14 are like mind-blowingly amazing, and it's worth it to
Yep.
push through. So just
To get
prepare
to
yourself
them.
that there's a slowdown in there where it's just you got to really push through.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot. I think I get caught up to you guys by the time I'm 40. I feel like that.
They take a while. I've been working on this
They
series for
do.
several years. I mean,
They
off and
do.
on.
But yeah, I mean
So
the first couple are really good. They do
yeah,
tend to fly by in
yeah.
terms of like world building and like character introductions and like they're
Mhm,
so fascinating because he has
mhm,
such clear ideas about
mhm,
his like characters, his cultures, like the
mhm,
lore that he's creating. It's so full and
mhm,
rich. It's really
mhm.
great. But yeah, it does like many things tend to
Right.
kind of bog down in the middle.
Well, and
Um
it's partly, I think, Andrew, and you correct me if I'm wrong or if what you think,
mhm.
but it's like the story's so big. By the time you get to that middle portion of the series, there's so many storylines that you're working that he's constantly trying to jump back and forth between. You can't help but get bogged down a little bit because
Yep.
it's just so expansive.
Yep. It's Game of Thrones to a little bit more of a controlled degree. Just because he doesn't have quite
Yeah.
as many characters that he's following as like Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is like spun
Right.
off wildly, I think. And Robert Jordan's still trying to get a handle on that. Or Robert Jordan,
Oh,
George R. R. Martin's still
Never
trying to get
mind.
a
Yeah.
handle on that beast.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. Right.
but yeah, he does kind of spin himself a little bit too far afield and then kind of brings
Yeah.
himself back.
Yep, yep. And
Um,
then, Brandon Sanderson obviously finishes the series, the
helps,
last
yeah.
3 books. It was supposed to be just 1 book to the finale, and then it was so much still to cover that it was 3 books, but apparently I mean, obviously Robert Jordan is the original, and they're amazing, but I've heard that the last 3 by Brandon Sanderson, that he basically used all the notes that the Robert Jordan's widow and son had, and they, like, prepped him on everything he needed to know, and there was some of it written, and apparently those final 3 by Brandon Sanderson are quite good, quite
Yeah,
good.
I have heard the
Not to
same.
diminish everything
It's
Robert
like
Jordan did, but
Well, I mean, it's
yeah,
so
it's
much
like
of his notes, you know what I mean?
right,
Like, it's a lot of his,
right.
like, very detailed plotting that,
Yep,
Brandon Sanderson just came in and was like, "Okay, like, I have a
well,
right.
solid base to
both
work
things are
with."
And he's a
important.
great author.
I mean,
Yeah. Right.
It's like, I think, I always say George Lucas is the world builder, but he needs someone else to like execute,
Yep.
Sure.
and so if it's,
Right.
if it's maybe not to that degree, but there's nothing wrong with having, the genius of the idea and someone else that executes. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. hmm For
so
sure.
we should talk a little bit specifically. I mean, we've been kind of diving into pieces of it here and there, but there's some things I have to say about episode 7 and 8 for sure.
hmm
Um, as we go through, like I wrote quite a bit going in. I had the annoying parts of Rand was coming through more and more as you've talked about. That's where like I got frustrated calling him Ginger Anakin because that's what he is.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it's frustrating me seeing the relationship between him and what's her face?
Egwene.
Egwene, yeah. And that's that's kind of hard for me to watch. And then they really like double down with the terrible I can't watch this with the wisdom and Lan. And I
Naive
was
Lan.
freaking out on the couch watching this with no one else around. I'm like, I can't take this right
Yep.
now. I dislike the wisdom so much. She just gets on my nerves. And
Yep.
every time it's like, oh my God. First, I never expected they'd go as far as they did. I thought, okay, we're gonna have to deal with the Nynaeve sitting there lurking all the time
hmm
at Lan,
hmm
and but then, oh my God, I just this relationship
Yeah.
bothers me. Okay, this
It's okay.
relationship is not okay with me.
Mhm.
Like I just
Yep.
don't. I don't
Yeah.
see the two being together. I think that there's nothing that has been particularly attractive about the personality of the wisdom here to Lan. Like why this would be what would impress him about her.
Mhm.
I love some of my favorite stuff earlier was when Moraine snapped back and said like maybe you should show some wisdom being
Mhm.
you're called the wisdom. I
You're
love
right.
that because
Yep.
she has so much growth that she needs to go through
hmm
before I would say that she is an attractive suitor to someone that's as put together as Lan.
I did question why. Like, I mean, I don't want to. I mean, I will say that that is a true narrative in the book where
Yep.
Mhm.
that's a relationship, but it's so out of order. That's like several books away. Like there's so much build up to that over time, and
See,
you get to
that's
see
what it
that
needed.
growth.
That's what it
Right.
needed.
So that's one of those
Ugh.
choices I just didn't get. So I agree with you. It's just like, why now? Do this in like 4 seasons from now, or work your way up to it. It's just how it is. Like, why do you need to change that? It's already so good, so well done in the books. All right, I agree with you.
Because you don't need
Okay.
more
Here's
relationships. This isn't like a soap opera thing right now. Like
yeah.
we
Right.
already are dealing with the drama of other relationships. We don't need to throw in
Yep.
another one.
No.
Yeah, so here's my take on it. And I agree with both of you to an extent. Um I as a book reader always had issues with Nynaeve and Lan getting together in the books.
Oh,
Um
I didn't know that.
I never really liked that relationship, mostly because I felt like there was so much um unearned animosity on Nynaeve's part towards Moraine about like
hmm
the fact that like Moraine bonded Lan as her warder, and it's like she did this
hmm
way before she met you, before she
Yeah.
even
Right.
knew you existed. Like she like looked in the future, was like, hey, Lan's gonna fall in love later, better like steal him away now. That's not how shit happens. Like,
Right.
that's like me being mad at my husband for like having a relationship before I met him. Like,
Right.
no, people have shit before they
I'm
meet
mad for
you.
you. No,
Right.
I'm mad
So
for
Yeah.
you.
thank you, thank you. Chris, get in here. Let's have a talk. Um, but but like
I would have
I've
loved it
I've
if Chris just
always
popped his head in all of a sudden. That would have been hilarious. Great.
but it's just there I've always had that issue that like there's just so much that's like so petty and childish, and it like I don't understand Nynaeve's resentment. She doesn't understand exactly how Aes Sedai war bonds work. So
Mhm.
she totally thinks they're one thing and like they're actually another, which I did appreciate in the show. Lan like snaps back at her and he's like, Moraine doesn't own me. Like that's not how this works. Like shh.
Mhm.
I did appreciate that correction.
He did that
Yeah.
too. He's like, it's like snaps at
Girl,
her.
Girl, very keeping in character of
Let me
Lan.
straighten you out.
Very.
His stoicism broke for that moment. He was
Yeah.
like, girl,
Yeah.
let me tell you. But so yeah, so I've always had a problem with their relationship. But yes, I extra had a problem with it in the show because it sped up so quickly. They jammed it in where like they didn't need to. There was already a lot of relationship drama going on between Rand and Egwene, which they do go through their growth pains and periods of like, I love you, I don't love you, we're together, we're not together. I would have found more focus on their relationship better, rather than throw this in now, especially because I think it also affected Lan's character in the fact that like he said a lot of things that I would not expect Lan to say. Like he invites her in to like meet his friends, like they're laughing and joking, like it's a
Yeah.
whole like warm fuzzy Lan that is
Mhm.
not in keeping with the books. He says stupid stuff like she gets up in the morning to like do her walk of shame and he states the obvious, you're leaving. I hate when characters say that like duh, she's leaving. You know,
Mhm.
just so many different things where, I was just like they made him too soft too quickly. Like he
Mhm.
softens in the books to be sure.
Yeah.
But it's so gradual and imperceptible that like
Mhm.
it just makes a lot of sense. Whereas
Mhm.
here it's very sudden.
Yeah. It's a
And
Did
little
you guys
jarring.
read my comments on this? Like I was
No.
freaking out. I don't know why I'm so invested in this.
No,
But I'm like,
it's
No, I
very
hadn't actually.
difficult.
I was
It's
like,
very
I
difficult.
screamed in the chat, and I'm like, don't introduce her to your
Yeah.
family or whatever the hell. Like, what? Where is
Yeah.
this relationship? And then
I know.
Moraine gives the okay. She's like, oh yeah, I forget what her line was, but it was something like
Yeah. I like
acknowledging
the
that
wisdom,
she's like
yeah.
interested in you and that she's a good girl or beautiful or
Yeah.
something. And it's like, no, you guys have had
Yeah.
nothing but conflict at this point. You put her in her
Right.
place before. Now you're okay with your warder
Right.
being
Yeah.
with her?
Very
No.
strange way to frame it up. Yeah, I agree.
Well,
It's very
Ah,
weird.
so here's where I think the show got clunky. Because Maureen, when she's talking to Lan, she's basically like, I'm gonna go to the last battle up in here and take the Dragon Reborn to face the Dark One.
Mhm.
Probably gonna die. She doesn't want Lan to die too, so she wants him to like feel like she has like he has her blessing to like be with
Mhm.
Nynaeve because maybe that will save him from
Yeah,
dying.
maybe.
Because
okay.
there is like
Okay. All
there
right.
is an element in the books where she addresses their relationship, in having to be okay with it.
Mhm.
But it's so much longer to get to this point
Yeah.
that it
Mhm.
makes a little bit more sense. Whereas here we're just like, what?
Yeah.
Like you said, there's been nothing but conflict, nothing but tension on either side, and suddenly she's like,
Mhm.
I like the wisdom, it's cool. Like,
Right.
mm-mm,
Go
no.
go get her, Tiger.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it was very strange.
Oh,
Yeah, so I don't know
man.
about that,
Yeah,
but
their whole scene, I was so like I was like, I get that, their relationship is a little more overt, especially for people who are coming to this new, who might need a little like romance in the series
sure,
and stuff like that. But when they
sure.
left it outside Land's door and he went to go to bed, I was like, great. They had their little flirt,
Right,
like
right.
it happened. And then she came back
Yep,
in and I was like,
I know.
oh, oh, I hated it. It was painful.
I
Mhm.
mean, I have the Michael Scott. No, God,
Yeah,
no.
I saw
For
that.
that, I just
It's very
can't.
much how I
Nice.
felt. I
Like,
agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it was
ah.
strange. Strange choice.
Okay, so that's out of the way. Something I did like. I'm really interested. I'm really interested in the character. The character I'm most interested in actually is the bartender with the tattoos.
In.
I
Mhm.
like her. I think she's got a cool look. I think she's
Mhm.
cool personality and like a fascinating ability and a burdensome
Mhm.
ability, obviously.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm excited to see. And I was very happy when she's leaving the city. And I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
she's not gonna die right now. 'Cause,
No,
um,
no, I don't want to spoil
eh,
anything, but pretty
yeah,
important character
Yeah.
overall,
okay,
long term.
that's good.
Although,
I'm excited
Phil,
for.
did
Although
you
he
feel
definitely
like
doesn't meet her there, but whatever.
agreed, yeah. Um,
So that's another
Phil,
weird
did
thing.
you feel
But
like she was a little older than you had sort of thought she was going to be from the book Min?
yeah, Well, I think she looks like she's right around the same age as like Show, Rand, and Egwene, and
Oh, okay, because
those
I thought
those
she
peeps.
looked more like she was around Show Nynaeve's age, and I was just like,
Oh,
I just thought like, I mean, and maybe that's just me, maybe that's my
maybe,
perspective,
I think
but
it's
like,
part of the
maybe.
way she holds herself. You know,
could be.
the kids are all played
Sure.
by
Maybe.
older people than they're supposed to be,
Well, yeah,
but
yeah,
Mhm,
but they all act young, you know, and
mhm,
so she comes off as a little more worldly and wizened
mhm.
than
sure.
they are. So
Sure, could be. But yeah, no, she's a cool character for sure.
Yep.
Mhm. I don't
um
want to say any more than
I
that, but
I know, I
so
know.
again with
say
this
so
show
much.
being like being I feel really pretty in these last couple episodes being really rushed. I felt like, you know, I wanted the Battle of Helm's Deep. We
Hmm,
really didn't get the Battle of Helm's Deep. We got
not really.
we got abbreviated version of Battle of Helm's Deep.
We
Like
got,
we didn't
Yeah.
yeah,
go through war, you know? Like this is not
Mhm.
something
we
that
got
was
the
really
greatest
built
hits.
to and like what's that?
We got the greatest hits because there were like
Right.
two
Yeah.
really badass scenes
Yeah.
that could have been like interspersed in like a much longer battle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like there
Yeah.
was cool shit happening, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
happened real
It
fast.
just
And
kind
I
of went through the wall really fast. You know, they climbed
Yeah.
up the
yeah,
wall and they got, you know, it just like, you know, that's the kind of thing like you have the time in a television series now. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
you don't have to deal with the 2.5 hour, you know, pushing the limits, 2 hours and 45 minute
Mhm.
runtime of a film. Like you
right.
can
Mhm.
spread this out. So like,
Yeah.
why aren't we building to this conflict? Why aren't we calling for aid? Why aren't we, you know, like doing all these things? Like this is bad news, and then we finally get to the moment and it's like an entire episode that's just like the slog of this horrible battle. And you know, it was a missed opportunity to
Mhm.
rush through that, I think.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I
Yeah.
thought it was cool, like the way they like illustrated, you know, Tarwin's Gap and like the little gap castle they have there. That was sweet. But yeah, you're right.
That
Like
wall of
they set all
arrows,
that up, but then yeah, and
that was
like yeah,
badass.
super cool. But then yeah, you're right. Then it's like the battle was like rushed through, and then it all became about the Aes Sedai doing their circle and then blasting all the
Right.
Trollocs with lightning, which was cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was again,
Yeah.
yeah, it felt rushed. I agree.
Yeah, I think there were thoughts there. There were good ideas in the sense of like everybody preparing for this thing. You know, like we got a lot of build up to
Mhm.
it. Like, you know, we're
Mhm.
shit, like the leader of Faldara was like, "Oh my god, you know, I should have listened to you, my sister. We should have called
Mhm.
for aid. We should have written to Tarvalon." You
Mhm.
know, there's this whole like armor deal, you know, about like
Mhm.
he's not putting on the armor. You know, you
Mhm.
should defend the city, get ready. Like, what are we
Mhm.
doing? Call the heroes, call the, you know, Aes
Mhm.
Sedai. There's a lot of build up, and
Mhm.
I think in a way it was supposed to get us ready for this big thing that wasn't, because
Mhm.
he was talking about, you know, oh my gosh, I can't believe that Tarman, which is the last battle, is happening in our lifetime. And then at the end,
Mhm.
Moraine's like, fuck, I thought this was the last battle. This is
Just
just
the
the
beginning.
first. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there was the intention, and maybe I'm ascribing too much, you know, forethought to the showrunners. I don't know. But I think there was maybe an intention to like get all this build up to something that was disappointing and over
Mhm.
quickly because it wasn't the last battle,
Mhm.
you know, and there's like a, you know, anticipation of this big thing that never came because, oh shit, we're realizing this is just like the first volley in a series of, you know, things that's going to happen from the Dark One.
Mhm.
That being said, you still could have done more with the actual battle. I agree.
Mhm.
Like there
Mhm.
still could have been more moments of like the Trollocs, you know, coming, getting to the fortress, could have been a better siege.
Mhm.
You know, the Lord of Faldara didn't have to die in a single spear throw. Like I was
That was weird.
disappointed about that.
Right. I think that guy
Um,
had a little better reflexes than that. Like,
right? Like I think he's been in a few more battles that he could have just been like,
yeah.
I probably could have survived this like a moment or two longer. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, so I think there was sense in not dragging it out and making it too epic so that, you know, when you do get to the last battle, it can be bigger. because you
Mhm.
don't want to set the bar too high and then all of a sudden you're like, what are we going to do for the last battle?
Right.
But yeah, it didn't need to be this quick
But
either. There's a
it'd probably be
balance.
different players, different environments. This
Oh,
is
it
like a
is.
whole
Sure.
like
For sure.
300 forced into the tunnel kind
Right.
of situation, that
Mhm.
Right.
I I had a lot of issues with it. I enjoyed watching it, but just like
Mhm.
I thought, well, they should
Yeah.
be using
Yeah.
bows, not crossbows. Like reload
Yeah.
time with that many people that's a poor
Right.
choice. And
Right.
then
Sure.
yeah, just not seeing enough. And then I had a whole bunch of questions about the women channeling because
Sure.
I thought that the whole idea was that for men, the channeling the source got corrupted and stuff. But then it's like this will seem to me like a lot of dark things going on with this channeling. And the way I perceived it was that she was like the central one, this the sister was like almost high on this amount
Yeah.
of power that she's
Mhm.
She is.
receiving,
Mhm.
particularly from and so to me it was like, well, that's kind of a dangerous element there. It's
Mhm.
almost to me that would be a corrupting element or something. You're using it in a dark
Mhm.
way or whatever,
Mhm.
losing
Yeah.
control.
Yeah. It's
So
almost
And
so
like.
that's a
Oh,
little
sorry.
bit different. Yeah. So like the taint is something quite literal, like the touch of the dark one on Satan is like
Mhm.
the taint. So intent didn't really matter before. So you could use it for dark purposes
Mhm.
before where like and it wasn't like you're corrupting the source. It's just like you, a
Right.
person, are using it in bad purposes, which we'll
Right. You're.
see, I think, in future seasons. So
Yeah.
so I get where you're coming from, John, but yeah, it sort of works because like these people aren't like bound by the Aes Sedai oaths of like I'm not
Right.
going to use the
mm,
one power for,
right.
killing
Right.
or to make a weapon. They're just
Because.
like I can use it any way I want to.
Right, because what isn't clear is that sister of the king, she
Yeah.
trained at the White Tower, but she wasn't actually powerful enough to become a full Aes Sedai. So she's
Yep.
not bound by the oaths that Moraine's bound by. But that wasn't
Yep.
very clear in the show because she does
Well,
wear
they
Right.
like
did
the ring.
hint at it
They
with the
talked about
ring.
that a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah, yeah.
but
Right.
then and so then yeah, Egwene's not Aes Sedai. Nynaeve's not Aes Sedai. They've never gone to the Tower for training, even though they can channel. And the other two people that they obviously found aren't Aes Sedai. So yes, technically they can use the Sidar
The
for
power, yeah.
whatever purposes they want. But and then the other thing to know that you wouldn't know just from watching the show is embracing the source is described in the books as like this, like just amazing ecstasy experience. It's so amazing to
Joyful.
channel that sometimes it's hard to like let go of that. And like sisters have to force themselves to like, okay, let go of the power because you don't want to let it go. And so it makes sense that this lady who is trained at the tower but was never very powerful when she got a hold of all this power and she knows obviously what channeling feels like, it's hard for it's especially hard for her to like go of that 'cause she'd never been able to take in that much of Sidar before. And so
Mhm.
that did ring true to me based on like the lore from the books, but the show didn't explain any of that.
Yeah.
So I got it, but like no one else that would watch it was that
Mhm.
hasn't read the books would get it. So I don't know.
Right.
Like strange choices not
Yeah.
to explain some of those things.
Well,
But
and then the other thing I thought is like, well, basically, okay, so you can just bring someone back from the dead now. To me, it's like a necromancy thing. We basically
no.
saw her. I mean, we saw Nynaeve obviously heal
Hmm.
Land, but I
Land.
assume he's not dead yet. He's like,
Right.
Right.
so he's stopping the bleeding. That doesn't make sense. But like, almost to me, I read as bringing Egwene back from the
Yeah.
dead, and
I
I was like,
was.
that's necromancy. And
Hmm.
it made me think most things, I think in Full Metal Alchemist, the kids try to bring their mother back from the dead. Doesn't
Yeah.
go well because you have to
No.
exchange something.
Right.
In Lord of the Rings, the ring, the One Ring is corrupting. It's like incredible power, but
Hmm.
it drives you mad. And so there's always a
Hmm.
cost to the
Yeah.
amount of power that you're expending here. And bringing someone back from the dead is like the pinnacle of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so in most things, blood magic or necromancy is a larger
Yeah.
cost of life. And so I'm just sitting here wondering, for channeling and using the one power and everything, is there a greater cost eventually? Are we getting this power? What is the source of the source and what's the cost for using it? And I'm
Mm,
hoping there is something there to like,
mhm.
because you don't get something for nothing. So I guess
Yeah.
I don't want spoilers.
Well,
That's what I was thinking
right.
of.
I'll say
As
two quick
watching this.
things. Two quick things. One, it went really well in Castlevania when they brought back Dracula. So I don't know what you're talking about. There's always this like horrible cost
Okay,
or
all right.
experience. Obviously, I'm kidding. Anybody who's seen that knows that
Yeah.
they, it's horrid. And two, I, as far as I'm aware, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, you can't bring someone back from the dead using the source. So I just personally assumed that she wasn't quite dead yet
Yeah, you
to
kind
help
of had to
in my
roll
own
with
brain,
that.
so I didn't
No.
like tear my
Yeah,
hair
no,
out.
I agree with you. In the books, you cannot bring somebody back that way. There are, I will say, things with the lore that, like they talk about the wheel turning and ages coming and going and people being reborn.
Right.
There are elements, that appear in the book series that I again think will be explored. And we're, beginning
hmm
to explore here. Like Rand talks about
hmm
himself in the final
hmm
episode. He like sees himself as Luz Theron Telamon.
hmm
He's like, I
hmm
did these things. So there's
hmm
there's an element of like rebirth, and there is an element of um
Like
bringing
knowing your
someone
past lives.
right, bringing someone
Yeah.
back.
hmm
But there isn't this very direct like necromancy kind of thing,
hmm
especially not for our main characters.
No.
Um, so no, yeah, you kind of just had to like roll with maybe Nynaeve's not dead, which again, the show didn't do a great job of making it look like she was like on the brink. Where, like you said, John, with
No.
with Nynaeve healing Lan, he was definitely still
Yeah.
alive. Like you saw him
Yeah.
like moving and blinking and stuff like that, and you were
Right.
like, "Whoa, crazy healing!" And the
Yeah.
show goes into that's Nynaeve's talent now. They
hmm
Right.
they say right after what you do with your first big embrace of the power is going to be like your kind of
Mm.
signature thing.
Right.
So for
Except it
Egwene,
was
I'm sort of
Egwene
like
healing Nynaeve. Yeah.
in this one, it's like Egwene healing Nynaeve, which is again a departure from the books. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh, I'm completely misremembering that then.
Yeah,
It
it's
was the
flip
other way
flop.
around. Okay.
Egwene
Yeah.
heals
Okay.
Nynaeve.
Okay.
And like
I was
it's
just misremembering that.
I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Egwene also is very powerful in her own right,
Yeah.
but she's not necessarily described in the books as like this natural like healer person
Yes.
like Nynaeve
Yep.
is generally.
Yep.
Well, she didn't have that
Yep.
opportunity to wake up. It's like a mutant. Their powers are exposed and duress, and puberty and
Oh,
stuff.
right.
And so
Sure.
obviously, the wisdom had imminent death of her future lover,
Right.
Right.
like shook her into
Yeah.
awakeness.
Right.
So
Right.
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 Well,
yeah.
and like Egwene's whole experience with the Source, trying to save Perrin when they're encountering the White Cloaks, I quite enjoyed
hmm
that. Like that, of course,
Sure.
was some major duress, and
hmm
would lend itself to
Yeah,
Egwene
that's a good point.
channeling.
Yeah.
And so
hmm
that whole like first touching of the Source and like figuring things out made sense to me. Whereas here, like, yes, it was like a very emotional moment, but I don't think it was very skillfully done in the sense of
It
like it
rings
did look
as
like necromancy, and
hmm
it just isn't like Egwene's thing in the books. Like
Yeah.
we already have Nynaeve for the healing. Probably
Right.
should have been reversed actually. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
clumsy to
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Hmm. One other thing I just thought of that I thought was really cool was when they were inside the portal, this other like pocket dimension, they're traveling and stuff, and
The
the right
ways.
before they got out,
Ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
the ways
hmm
right before they got out, I thought there was a
Yeah.
pretty cool display of abilities and the stuff that was coming after him, all the flying,
hmm
whatever, I thought that
Oh,
was
Match
pretty
and
neat.
Shin.
Washington. Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah, the Black Wind.
um. There's
Folklore.
a lot more. My notes are extensive here. There's characters we haven't even like really touched on, basically,
Sure.
and all
There's
that
so much to
stuff.
talk about. Yeah. hmm
Yeah. So been going for a pretty good chunk of time. Open the floor. If there's something that like must be discussed that we're missing out on, go for it. Yeah.
So one major plot point here comes in episode 8 with the last stand of Faldara and the guardsmen tearing down the throne to dig up the horn of
Oh yeah.
Valir.
Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
our old friend Padden Fane comes back, the
Mhm.
merchant, the peddler from Two
Mhm.
Rivers, who we saw
Mhm.
like just in a blip in Tarvalon and now comes back in
Mhm.
Faldara being like,
Mhm.
followed y'all. You know, he clearly
Well, you
went through
saw
the
him come out of the
ways.
ways, right? Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
There's a
So we know
scene in
he
the
can
ways you can
channel.
actually see him in like some like lightning flashes, and you can see just
Yep.
his
Oh,
silhouette.
really?
Super
Oh,
cool.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yes.
You have to really look
Yep.
for it when you rewatch it. Yeah.
So
But
yeah, so I just feel like we have to talk about that because Padden Fane
mhm.
again is an important character in the books. He
Mhm.
does
Mhm.
reappear quite often. Um, he's kind of dark friend extra right now. You know,
Yeah.
he's a dark
Right.
friend that can channel, and has clearly been tracking the Two Rivers guys and spying for the Dark One and being like, listen, I'm following
Yeah.
y'all because you all have a part to play in the pattern.
Right.
And then at the end, he takes the Horn of Valir,
Mhm.
um, which is a pretty important plot point that I was sort of like
Eh.
upset about at first,
Mhm.
because they're like, here, the Horn of Valir, we've had it, we've been hiding it in Faldara all this time, and
Right.
then
And now
like
this dark has it.
and now this
Like
dark friend has it. Yeah, so I was a little
weird.
annoyed because like the
Yeah.
guards, like the second they hear a commotion, they just like leave the horn and they're like, "Oh shoot, like we got to go fight." Which I
Right.
always find so weird. It's like
Yeah.
this is like a big treasure thing that you dug up,
Mhm.
like you're just going to abandon it. And
Mhm.
I also was a little annoyed because it's a whole big thing in the books. Like there's a
Mhm.
whole book devoted to like searching for the horn, like
Hunters for the Horn. There's like people that are like
yep,
seeking
yep.
it.
Yep, there's a whole, like,
Um.
company and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but ultimately for the books or for the show, I get why they just sort of had to be like, "We
Throw it in
kinda
there.
gotta gloss over this we have to
Yeah.
introduce the horn."
Right.
But yeah, it's a big piece of lore where whoever blows the horn,
Mhm.
in can, like, summon the heroes of legend, like,
Mhm.
you know, the heroes that stood with Luz Theremin,
Mhm.
Luz yeah, Luz Therin
Was there in
Telamon.
Telamon. Yeah.
Yep. Um, so yes, so it can be
Mhm.
again a thing used for either dark or light, and so it's of
Mhm.
course important now that Padden Fane has taken it,
Mhm.
Well,
Oh,
during that, Perrin
which I
picked up
think is
that
setting
axe.
up
I'm
for
like,
yeah.
don't give him an axe, please. That's my
I
thought.
know, right?
all right. I will add one thing on that your viewers should know about Padden Fane.
Yes.
So he's a dark friend, but he also now eventually in the books too gets a hold of that dagger from Shadar Logoth, and it kind of is its own separate, unique brand of evil, separate and apart from the Dark One. And he kind of becomes like doubly evil in his own like kind of way, and he kind of goes rogue. So he's just so you know, I don't think it's like a spoiler, and maybe they don't do it
Yeah.
that way because clearly it seemed like he was working like directly with some um oh my god, I'm blanking. What do you
Like
the eyeless ones?
Forsaken,
No,
Fade.
he was with two fades at the end. So clearly he's like
Yeah.
just completely dark
Working
friended it
for the
up,
Dark
but
One. Yeah.
yeah, a dark one ended up, but like he becomes like his own kind of like his own person with his own motivations and stuff, and it's like a super cool character. But I hope they kind of bring that into it a little bit more. How it's like important that he's
Right.
like this super powerful. He becomes even more powerful as like a dark friend because of this new other evil he gets from the dagger. So it's super cool, and I hope they go into that a little more in depth in the show. Although I don't know if they'll have time. But we'll see.
Yeah,
So,
I felt like they were setting up for season 2 a little bit, because of course the second book is called The Great Hunt, and it is about like the Horn of Valir and the search for
Hmm.
that. So I'm
Hmm.
hoping that this is like leading into that. Padden
Yeah.
Fane, obviously
Yeah.
having it, they're gonna
Yeah.
lean into his character in season 2.
Yeah. Hmm.
one thing I thought was really interesting was I was looking for this comment where who was saying it, but I think it must have been Moraine saying to send the message about Matt to the red one.
Oh
I'm
my
Hmm.
like,
god, I
oh, you want
Red
him
know.
dead?
Aja.
You
I know
want
that was
him
such a
dead?
that was such a roller
Like,
coaster. I was like,
I
"Oh, she
know.
cares about Matt. Oh shit, she's handing him to the
y-
Reds."
I
Like,
know. I
yeah,
know. That was
oh,
weird. Moraine would never
it
do
was
that in the
weird.
books,
Yeah,
but
no. Yeah, that was a
yeah.
weird
no,
departure from the books,
okay,
Moraine.
okay.
Um,
I thought like I mean I figured she just thought well he's gone clearly so we're
Right. Well,
right.
and the red Aja wouldn't necessarily like kill him. They would just like take him and like hold him until they can make sure he's not like a threat to like the
well what they've
plan.
shown us in the
They
show
could
so
gentle him.
far I'd assume
Sure.
that he would be basically dead. I mean like what they've shown in the show
Sure.
given
Yeah.
that impression. That's what I read it into it anyway, is what it
Yeah,
said.
Spoilers.
He's
He's
done.
not dead, and he's a very important character throughout the whole series. So
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, yeah, I mean, like, I see he's alive, yeah, but I just mean, like, clearly she's setting people on the path to take him
Sure.
out. That was, to me, the way I read that.
Right,
Sure.
which
Yeah,
I think is
for sure.
a weird flex here,
Mhm.
and it's a weird
Mhm.
departure from book Moiraine.
Right. Yeah. But the only
All
thing I
right.
wanted to say, and we can, if the other people have other things, the only thing
Yeah.
I wanted to say is that, like, um, I've watched all these episodes with my wife, who didn't particularly want to hear about all my gripes about differences between the books and the show as we were watching it. Understandably. And so I appreciate this outlet to be able to talk about some of the things that were very frustrating to me.
Yes.
But overall, I really, really enjoyed the series. Like,
Yeah.
I tried to really just appreciate it for its own thing, and I tried not to get too caught up in, like, differences. I mean, you wouldn't know it from listening to this podcast, but I tried not to get too caught up in the differences and just enjoy it for, like, what it is. And there was
Yeah.
lots of things I loved. And so I don't want, I mean, some of these criticisms are kind of nitpicky. And so if there happens to be any producers or showrunners from, Amazon Wheel of Time that is watching this, like, please know I really enjoyed it.
Hmm.
So I just wanted
I
that to
think
be clear, because I gave a lot of criticisms in this pod.
we nitpick because we care. I mean,
Right.
if I didn't care, then I would just sort of like blow past these things and be like,
Sure.
yeah.
Who cares?
But
Right.
I put
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
I like think about them, and it's just like
Mhm.
I hope they did it this way because, and like
Right.
maybe, there was this reason behind X and Y. There are some things I'm probably just never going to love.
Sure.
To jump on the bandwagon, Lan and Nynaeve's relationship, I'm probably never going to love that.
Sure.
But, that doesn't mean like I can't care about like the way it's crafted.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's nerd culture. That's being a fan or a fanatic.
Hmm.
Like, you just, I mean, I think about that a lot too. Sometimes sit and complain about a show that ultimately, we talked about Hawkeye, and I said
Right.
plenty of things I didn't enjoy, but I liked the show a lot. I think it's probably my
Right.
favorite Marvel Disney show yet.
Right.
And
Mm.
so as much as, like, I definitely got, if there was a slow start to this, I don't like shows with kids or young people generally. Like, I have issues with them, and, like, I have lots of production problems and stuff or whatever. But
Mhm.
I still enjoyed my time
Mhm.
with
Yes.
it, and I think that if they dump a little more money into this and they can feel
Mhm.
confident that they can keep going with a good number of seasons, we
Mhm.
can work on the pace, we can work on production value, and they have something on their hands here, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
clearly there's a big following. I've been watching, like, generally on a, like, monthly basis or whatever. Netflix and Disney dominate the streaming charts generally.
Mhm.
Like, that's
Mhm.
who's there. One of the shows that's popping up in there consistently is Wheel of Time.
Right.
Mm.
Amazon pops up in there in this one, and it comes to a surprise, I guess, to some people, because not a lot of people are talking about it, which
Yeah.
Mhm.
is good to me. Like, it's saying that the fan base isn't just a whole bunch of, Twitter trolls that spend all their time online, whatever, but people are watching it. And so
Mhm.
I think it's going to be a successful series. I think that if they play their cards right, they have something here. I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
it's a satisfying first season, and I just
Mhm.
hope for an upward trajectory going forward.
Yep.
It's kind of like
Absolutely.
Battlestar Galactica. The first opening of it was like a short film. It was a movie or
Mm.
whatever, so hour
Mhm.
or something or whatever it was,
Mhm.
and definitely lower production values. But once they got the green light to go ahead and people
Mhm.
liked it,
Mhm.
like, there's a clear improvement going forward in
Mhm.
season one
Mm.
and on. And I'm
Mhm.
just hoping for that kind of thing here.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
got, there's kind of a short season,
Mhm.
sort of a lot rushed. They want to have something concluding and a big battle at the end and stuff. So if things
Right.
don't go, they, but now I think, yeah, like you say, they got greenlit before it aired for the next
Mhm.
season. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it could be something good here. And
Yeah.
as much as I freaked out at moments, I enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want any of my criticisms to dissuade anyone from watching it. I think I
No.
criticize because I care.
Right.
And there's always things that you think like, could have been done better.
Mhm.
But that doesn't take away from my essential enjoyment of the show. And
Mhm.
the fact that I'm thrilled that Amazon took this on, I think
Mhm.
overall they did it in a great way. They got a handle on a lot of source material and managed to condense it down into something I
Mhm.
think that's understandable for those who haven't read the books,
Mhm.
and is still
Mhm.
enjoyable for those of us who have, even if we
Yeah.
mourn the loss of, certain elements from the books.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, commendable job. Like you said,
Yeah.
John, I really hope that they can get some more money thrown at this for production value, kind of smooth out some of the rough edges, enhance some of the effects that I already think they're making strides on improving.
Mhm.
And yeah, season 2 can just be something really epic,
Yeah. It's another win for Sony. They just had a giant time at the box
right?
office for Spider-Man. Now they
Yep.
have
Mhm.
this show that's like one of the few shows, making headways in the charts against the big two. And they have a tie-in, I think, right now with the Amazon game, like MMORPG, The New World.
Right.
Mhm.
There's a tie-in with Wheel of Time for you can get some cosmetic things and stuff for your
Oh,
people, outfits and
sure.
stuff or whatever.
That's
So
cool.
that's a little more exposure. So, because I
Mhm.
was thinking this,
Yeah.
there could be a cool video game somewhere in here. Sony.
Oh.
I could see, they made this, but it's because it's competing now. This is a
Mhm.
Sony and Amazon thing. So who gets to make the game? But
Right.
You're right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to just like plug, if you're loving like Wheel of Time and like loving being in this universe, Amazon did release like a kind of a mini library of short videos and like backstories on characters, events like the
Hmm.
breaking of the world, like the Eyes to Die, the
Oh.
Warders, they kind of have a whole like mini library of videos in the
Oh, I
Wheel
didn't
of
see that.
Time
They
page.
should
Yeah,
advertise that.
Oh.
they really should. I just kind of happened to stumble upon it when I was just kind of poking around. So yeah, so if you're interested, I would highly recommend watching those.
Yeah.
They do again a good job of like condensing things down into couple like couple minute videos kind of thing, just to
Mhm.
like give you more
Mhm.
in the world. So kudos to them for doing
Cool.
that.
Very
All
cool.
right.
Yeah. I'll check that out.
Well, I think that going forward, if we can always do a thing where if we want to cover rumors and stuff or filming news or whatever from the upcoming
Right.
season, if we're interested in that kind of thing, we can. Otherwise, if we don't want any potential spoilers from that, we don't have to. But whatever, there's a lot to discuss going forward. Or if you guys want to talk book, whatever, we always got that we can make happen. So.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Great.
Otherwise, I think it's been a pretty I'm glad we could provide an outlet to just vent and glow about a couple things here and there
Yep.
on the show that
Mhm.
maybe otherwise wouldn't get to, and
Yeah.
appreciate your input and everything. So
Yeah. Well, I
everybody,
appreciate you
thank
guys
Phil
having me
for
on.
joining. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Always a pleasure being here.
you bet. So that'll be it for Popcast on the Rocks, episode 88. You should, if you like shows like this, you like content based on nerdy things and whatever, make sure you give us a follow on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, all the places. We're in most of them. Leave comments. We've gotten some comments on Wheel of Time things before, and I read them. And I thought to myself, I have no idea what you're talking about. Andrea, read these comments and respond. Um, so, yeah, but we appreciate that greatly. Podcast directories, you can listen on Spotify now in video form or audio. Take your pick. We're uploading in video there as well. And otherwise, whatever other podcast directory, we're on a bunch of them. So go there, leave a review. That helps others find us. Killing the Flower. They're a band that created our theme song. So go ahead and give them a look-see on YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify. And that'll be it. We'll be back next week with another awesome episode based on something cool. So for the time being, Andrea, Phil, thanks for joining me.
Of course. As always.
Thanks.
Cheers, everybody. See you in 2022.